lot, and now they are planning of building now, connecting this now to the Eco-Atlantic City and extension, which of course will go down this route, and that of course will just be a huge killer. Lagos has been planned, like everybody know, that it's not run on, how will I call it now, impulse. Lagos is run planned, and everybody is doing his own turn. And of course, again, the credit still go to Mr. President, who laid that foundation in 1999. The beauty of what they call consistency or continuity
of government.
Yes, of governance.
And to the governors too, who will follow the plan, yes, because some could come in and deviate from it.
Yes, of course. I agree with you, because there are some states that have been governed by one party since 1999, but yet you don't see this level of progress because everybody come and start his own agenda. But here, there seems to be an understanding. There's an engagement. Lagos sit down with the companies in Lagos, have conversation with them. And this talk is not something that happens once in a while. It happens regularly. There's always this interface between the governor and the business people in Lagos and the corporate owner. So that connect is actually what is sustaining this growth. And they have also contributed a lot. Take, for example, the Security Trust Fund. Lagos floated it since 1999 to ensure that everybody is safe, and we can see that sense of security. Not that crime don't happen in Lagos, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Okay, so my concern is sometime I remember vividly the former governor of Kaduna State when he was going through ministerial screening in the Senate, and he was then being primed to become the Minister of Power. So he was talking about the power sector and what needs to be done, and systems that he had studied outside the country that should serve as a good template for Nigeria to emulate. And what I want to bring out from there is to bring out the word template that should be emulated. I told people that Lagos is 50 years ahead of a lot of states in Nigeria. Other states, you take the initiative and just come to Lagos and look at what they are doing, pick up the template and go and replicate it in their own state. What are they doing? Why are they just sitting put? Whether you are making the IGR, no matter how small it is in your own state, or you are getting from the federal government, when the government, starts giving out, sharing money between the state and the local government and the federal government, what do you do with yours? Do you have a plan in place to develop your state? Don't we have a stakeholder or a big politician, or like someone in the status of Mr. President in other states? And I think we have not one, not two, not three, not four, who can come together, bring all the political parties together and say, look, this is the direction that we should go. Even if you came and you win the election and you become the governor of the state tomorrow, this is the path that we are going, irrespective of what political party that comes into place. The reason is clear. We want to make sure that the indigents of this state are safe. We want to make sure that our state becomes a haven for businesses to come build their, not only their headquarters, to come and put up manufacturing, so that our people can find jobs to do, so that we can have creativity and innovation take place in our state. We need to follow Lagos. We need to replicate the template that is taking place in Lagos, whether in transportation or in town planning, and even in the way they have digitized the tax system to collect tax in their state. We need to follow, we need to do this. We cannot just continue to play politics for primordial purposes, enrich ourselves, and leave the state desolate. I think there should be that form of conversation among stakeholders, among political stakeholders in the 36 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because the absence of that is so obvious that some states are here and some are here. And
I think that is because some states just totally rely on allocation, monthly allocation from FAC. So if the federal government doesn't, particular states, they're unable to pay salaries, they're unable to do projects. Look some states. There are opportunities for IGR, internally generated revenue. But you're wondering, is that nobody's thinking, nobody's looking at this direction? And then you come to Lagos State. If we look at the way Lagos is working, it is not just the state government that is working. You can still see some local governments working. Even the LCDAs, you can see development ongoing. And you can say, this is what this particular LCDA is doing. This is what this particular local government is doing. But in some states, when you talk about local government, completely dead. You just know that there's a secretariat. But you go there, you hardly find people even there, let alone people doing things. So it has become a sort of laziness where states just wait for allocation. Recall the time when, during the COVID-19 era, and even before that, how much states were owing. And then they were waiting for bailout from the federal government, and that actually came during the President Buhari's administration, where he had to bail out states for them to be able to pay salaries. So it's just, and then you wonder in states, like you were asking, don't we have people who are think tanks there that could work with the state government to improve this? There are. Who are those in the state economic team that are planning out ways to generate revenue, ways to industrialize the state? Because for you to attract companies, you must have the enabling environment. They're looking at the size of your market as well. So when they see that if they put in investment, the size of your market doesn't guarantee that they can get their investments. They want to go to other states. And I think that's what Lagos State is enjoying over the years, even when Lagos was the federal capital of Nigeria. Even till now, that is still the commercial capital of Nigeria. It has enjoyed that name and is building on that name. So whenever any company is thinking of investment, the first place they're thinking of in Nigeria is Lagos, except for other reasons, maybe nearness to raw materials and certain other things. They begin to consider other states. But the first port of call happens to be Lagos State. And I think apart from Lagos, Ogun State was almost was trying to replicate what Lagos is doing. But they too have not been able to do so much because in terms of infrastructure, they're also lacking there. And some other things that Lagos have been able to do in having a more organized city, a more planned city that you would want to go to. But in terms of attracting industries, Ogun State too has been able to do well in that regard and some other states. So I think that it is because federal allocation comes in regularly. So
yeah, but talking
relaxed.
about fact, it's also to understand that really Lagos became a child of necessity. Probably if the Obasanjo, Tinubu's Imbroglo didn't happen, maybe Lagos would have been like every other state. Because that, of course, was a problem created in 2000 when Tinubu decided to create more local governments. And of course, in the eye of the president, it was unconstitutional. And because in the fifth schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the local governments are listed. And of course, every state and their local governments are listed. And so if you are creating one, so which means you have to either amend the Constitution to reflect it. And so it's not something that one person can single-handedly do. But as a progressive, he was thinking that, look, creation of local government should not be a federal government thing. It should be something that will be done within the state. So he went ahead and created. And when he did that, of course, the Federation account which had allocation to the councils in Lagos all through his tenure. And these councils needed to survive. The newly created councils needed to survive. And he weathered the storm, looking for creative ways to be able to fund his belief. And that's why when Bagudu was saying on the KPMG Arise budget section, I agree that, of course, the president who believes in innovation and creative ways of making wealth from the experience that he had when there was this struggle for the soul of Lagos. And I think that was actually it. Because Mr. President at that time wanted to at least be solid in his own base, and he needed to win all the states in the Southwest, at least, so that he can be doing well outside and in his own environment is not doing well. But he survived that politics. The do or die politics, he survived it. So these are issues. So a mechanism has been put in place. Just look at the crisis in the Lagos State House Assembly. After all the press war, 2 men stepped in, and then, of course, status quo has been maintained. And compare with what is happening in other states. So systems and structures are the things that define an institution and makes them work. So those systems are there, those structures are there. The governor's consultative assembly is there that is regulating, though they are not in power, but they oversee and they give counsel to the governors, successive governors, and say this is where we are going. And then, of course, everybody seems to have control over their domain and determine how they are going to move the next session. And therefore, there is respect to decisions taken at that level. And I think that is what is lacking. You have a lot of people with primitive capital accumulation in most states, and all they think about is how much money they can grab so that they can become the emperor. And this is a big problem for most states in Nigeria. But that is what it is. Lagos is the center of excellence. Somebody showed a video, I think it's from the other kingdom the other day, and said, tell me that this is not Nigeria. And I said, well, this is Nigeria. And we're inviting everybody who care to bring their money to Lagos. It's as beautiful as Paris, as beautiful as London. And we're happy to have that. We're operating from that center of excellence.
Yes, and Lagos State government can also do a lot more to ensure that really it is as beautiful as Paris or everywhere, not just some parts of the city, every part of it. You know, at the point in Lagos.
Don't worry, I'll buy a house in Banana Island.
Oh, thank you very
Banana
much.
Island? Why not in somewhere in Badagry?
Seriously.
Why not somewhere in Badagry? Why not?
I can find
Why
out.
not? I
see that you like to stay close to nature.
Really?
You could stay close to. You could stay around Badagry so that
Everybody wants to go to Banana Island.
Yeah, you know there was a time in Lagos when you were scared to drop a sachet of water after drinking on the ground.
Yes.
But it seems like we've gone past that era now. That fear has been lost. People have come back to dumping refuse in public drains, and you know the city is losing that clean look that it had gotten at the time. So I think the government need to focus on that so that we make Lagos a very clean place for all of us to live in, and so that investors and those who would like to have a tour of Lagos can come and enjoy their stay. But I think that Lagos is becoming more hospitable by the day. It used to be said that if you ask for directions in Lagos, you would just get more lost because they would send you in the opposite direction. But that is changing now. People are more willing to offer help to those who need to find their way around the city. So
maybe people were making money then misdirecting people. Gogo has taken their business.
yes, that's also happening too. And I think that with the influx of more people from different backgrounds, different continents, they're getting more used to receiving foreigners and being more accommodating.
You won't believe it. When I came to Lagos first time, and I entered a vehicle from Ojota to Ogba, and I got to Ogba. And they said, okay, I have to take you back to where I was going. And here was this bike man. He was driving me around the whole of Ogba.
Increase your fare.
He must have overcharged you, so he had to justify that.
He actually took me in front of the place I was going.
He found that he didn't know where you were going to.
So he needed to justify why he was charging you. He couldn't just say this is the
you know why I said that Gogo has taken job away from a lot of people.
Wow. That's impressive to see how much a change has happened in Lagos. Let's look at the employment market now, the labor market rather, as the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment and the Federal Ministry of Youth Development have signed a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, to facilitate the creation of 2.5 million jobs. So this, they say, is part of the Renewed Hope agenda of the president. And they also had a collaboration with Safitol Limited. So they're looking at creating 2 1.5 million jobs, creating pathways for skills development, job placement, and entrepreneurship. Now, this is good. We find that every administration talks about job creation for the youth, and but sometimes we're not impressed with the type of jobs that are created, and it's not really like a continuum. So when another administration comes, it's either they're scrapping that particular initiative, bringing on another, or the initiative itself just looks like an organized way of giving out handouts to people who are not really contributing. I'll give an example of this. The Shopee system, where you had people posted to different ministries, but some of them were not really coming to work. They just come in, sign it once in a while, and at the end of the month, they were getting their stipends paid. Some were even reallocating the slots that were given to them
to other people.
And it became more like a political conversation. We did not want the NDE and the Ministry of Youth Development to go in this direction.
Yeah, I think we can be much more strategic in terms of how we do job creation projects as a country. Because what we have seen is, like you have rightly mentioned, job creation has become like a social service. People just thinking, okay, let's empower people and give them 30,000 or 50,000 or 70,000. But I don't think that's what the economy really needs to survive. I feel that we have to be a lot more strategic in terms of what kind of things we want to do. Now, we are attracting people to come to the mining sector, for example, in Nigeria. Then we must create skills in that regard. That if companies bring in money and they said, we want to invest in Nigerian mining sector, the necessary work or skills that's required for that industry, we must find a way to create it. Or we have petroleum industry. There's a whole lot that's happening, fabrication, welding, and the rest of it. Then we have to position people. I think it was Governor Fashola who did something that was very close to that when he revamped the technical education in Lagos. What he did was those who were doing electrical in the technical education ensured that they got the job for servicing the street lights. It was only the graduates from technical colleges that got those jobs. Those who were doing carpentry ensured that all the desks that were made for classrooms in Lagos were made by those graduates. And that for me was quite strategic and quite innovative. And I think that's what the government of Nigeria can learn from. Now, when we are thinking about skill, we should be looking at it that we are empowering people and taking industry in which they can succeed or help become reproductive. And then we will not be needing expatriates to come from abroad to come do work that our people have energy and the intellectual potential to be able to do, except that they have not been trained toward that direction. When you look at when the robotics started in China, and of course all manner of humanoids were coming, people were thinking it was going to take away job. But what did the Chinese government do? They rechanneled the energy of the youth to begin to work around humanoids and robotics. So they didn't really lose job, but they gave them new skill sets to be able to confront the new workplace. And I think this is kind of things that we can do here in Nigeria.
Great. So one of the reasons, or one of the things that industrialists look at when they want to cite more like a manufacturing hub, when they want to cite a company, they want to cite an establishment, is the availability of manpower. If the manpower that is required to work in those organizations to be able to produce the products that organization is going to produce, if they are not in the immediate environment or within that vicinity that the organization can employ to work in there, then they begin to have a rethink, because the organization would just be stuck in its plan. And I'm glad Doc was saying something about creating those people who have those skills. Sometimes the people who have these skills are available, but there's not been anything, there's no job for them to work. So you see some of them leaving that skill and, moving to another skill set because they believe there is no market, there is no work, there is no industry where they can go and exercise. So if we are going to look at creating 2.5 million jobs, like the government is saying, the best place that the government should be looking at, agriculture should top the list. Agriculture should top the list. And the government needs to find a creative way to make young people attracted to agriculture. I know there are many young people in agriculture, and if it is the money that will attract young people to come into agriculture, then the government needs to do it. They're giving them the necessary education that they need to survive in agriculture, other creative ways that the youth can participate in the agriculture industry. We'll look at the distribution value chain. I remember speaking to some of the young people who are also in agriculture, and they're talking about fishing and this fish farming, and how when you make loss, you make loss, like you will lose. But when you make gain, you will make gain. But what determines whether they make gain or loss is having the knowledge to be able to manage and the technical skills that is required to be able to manage those facilities so they can, sustain themselves in business. Apart from that, it's really going to be hard, and I don't know how well the government is going to do it. Yeah, we just hope that they have the required initiative as well that they'll put on ground, and the blueprint, which we hope that will materialize.
Okay, so we hope that the Ministry of Labor and Employment and also the Federal Ministry of Youth Development will creatively create this 2.5 million jobs for Nigerian youths. This is where we complete the news analysis today. Let's take a break. We'll return with policy discussed. Stay tuned.
Wale Soyinka, born Akiwande Oluwole Babatunde Soyinka on July 13, 1934, in Abeokuta, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, stands as one of Africa's most celebrated literary figures and a global icon of resistance against oppression. His life and works reflect an unwavering commitment to justice, culture, and the transformative power of arts. Soyinka was born into a Yoruba family in colonial Nigeria, an environment that exposed him to both traditional African culture and Western education. His father, Samuel Ayodele Soyinka, was a school headmaster, while his mother, Grace Eniola Soyinka, was a devoted Anglican. This blend of indigenous and colonial influences deeply shaped Soyinka's world. Soyinka attended Government College Ibadan and later proceeded to the University College Ibadan, where he studied English and literature. Soyinka completed his education at the University of Leeds in England, earning a degree in English and later a doctorate degree. In the late 1950s, Soyinka began working as a dramaturgist at the Royal Court Theatre in London. However, his passion for storytelling and cultural preservation drew him back to Nigeria, where he founded two theatre groups known as the 1960 Masque and the Orisun Theatre Company. Soyinka's works, often a fusion of Western dramatic techniques and African themes, address universal issues of justice, freedom, and human dignity. His early play, titled A Dance of the Forest, which was introduced in 1960, written to celebrate Nigeria's independence, critically examined the nation's socio-political trajectory. setting the tone for his career as both artist and activist. Soyinka's activism became more visible during Nigeria's post-independence years. In 1967, during the Nigerian Civil War, he called for a ceasefire between federal forces and Biafran separatists. This led to his arrest by the military government, and he spent 22 months in prison, where he wrote a short drama titled The Man Died, Prison Notes, a harrowing account of his imprisonment and a profound critique of authoritarianism. Soyinka has authored more than 20 works, including plays, novels, poetry, and essays. In 1986, Soyinka became the first African to win the Nobel Prize of Literature, an achievement that brought global recognition to African literature. Soyinka remained an outspoken critic of oppressive regimes, often at great personal risk. His activism extended beyond Nigeria, addressing global issues of injustice and human rights. During periods of military rule in Nigeria, he went into exile, continuing to write and speak against tyranny. Today, Soyinka is celebrated not only as a literary giant, but also as a symbol of resilience and moral courage.
Known as the father of African literature, Chinua Achebe was born on the 16th of November 1930 in Ogidi, now Anambra State, eastern Nigeria. He was born to Isaiah Okafor Achebe, a teacher and an evangelist, and Janet Anenichi Iluegunam, a vegetable farmer. Achebe has reshaped the global understanding of African identity through the power of storytelling. Raised during the twilight of colonial rule, Achebe's education was steeped in both Igbo tradition and the Western values of post-colonial Christianity. As a student at the University of Ibadan, he became fiercely critical of how Africa was portrayed in Western literature. Achebe believed that Western literature often painted Africa as a dark and primitive continent, but he sought to tell the African people's lens. In 1958, Achebe's groundbreaking novel Things Fall Apart shattered colonial narratives through the tragic story of Okonkwo, an Igbo warrior. Achebe illuminated the
Yes, let's have some policy discourse right now. We're looking at geopolitical tensions in Africa. So when we talk about geopolitical tensions, it's not just happening in the West, it's also happening in Africa. There are areas in Africa where there are tensions ongoing. For instance, in Congo. Report has it that in Congo, communities are gearing up for a war of fleeing safety amid the advance of the M23 rebels who captured the key eastern cities of Goma and Bukavu in recent weeks. That's not a good situation. When we talk about Africa developing, when we talk about free movement all around Africa, we should see progress and not war situations ongoing in parts of Africa. So today we'll be looking at how these tensions can be addressed, what needs to be done to ensure that there is lasting peace all over Africa. And this morning we have Ambassador Williams Wallace, who is the Honorable Consul General Antigua and Barbuda to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's also the African International Chamber of Commerce. And recently, he had a new appointment. He's going to tell us about that. It has to do with traditional rulers in Africa. So we're also going to be looking at the role of the traditional institution in ensuring peace in Africa. Ambassador Williams Wallace, it's great to have you on the show today. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Blessing, and happy to see the new logo, front burner, It looks fiery, and that's the kind of news we want. We want to hit news like it is, tell the truth, and be, honest with the truth for us as Africans. Thank you.
Okay, let's look at a burning, a fiery happening in some parts of Africa, the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. You have the M23 rebels there that have taken captive a particular area in that country, and communities there are scared. Residents there are even fleeing, trying to find safety in other parts of Africa. But there was once peace there. What happened?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we have to think about what this is all about. And what is this all about? This is really all about resources. And who's driving this? It is also very interesting to note that the people who are driving this are from the outside of the continent. They want our raw materials, and so they're fueling and have been fueling this fire of non-peace among African people. They arm them, they pay them, they provide them with logistics. And I have to say, these are Europeans who have an interest in the raw materials and want it for free. They don't want the Congo or any other African country to benefit from their natural resources under the earth. So what they do is that they find ways to divide and rule, divide and exploit, divide and take away, and the framework and the model, if you look at it, has been repeated time and time and time again. So for peace in Africa and for peace in the DRC Congo, what has to happen is the leadership and those who are in charge of leading the people, and this comes down also to traditional rulers, get together. And it's a simple, very simple formula. These are our resources. This is for us. Let's come together. We are brothers and sisters. Let's unite and let's explore and exploit our resources for our own gain. So for the peace to come, and the M23 rebels and the government troops and the others who are engaged in this very violent against our own people war, is to see the light, see that this is taking our resources and getting us as brothers to kill ourselves for the sake of someone else, which are the Western world. So for peace to come, I know that the new chairman, the AU chairman, Mahmoud Yusuf, he said his first priority as chairperson of the African Union is peace and security, because I think he has recognized, and this is what he won his chairmanship on, he has recognized that for economic development, for free trade, for movement, we have to have peace among ourselves to be able to do what we need to do as Africans and take the continent forward. So for the peace that you are talking about and that we are talking about, let's have our mindset. Let's get the leaders to sit down and talk about our development. Let's talk about our plans. Let's talk about our resources. Let's talk about what we need to do to ensure that we are not exploiting more. We have a young generation now who are very tech savvy, who are very digital savvy, and who understand what is going on. That's why we have the Gen Z rising up on the continent. This 70% of the continent is now young people, and they're not fooled anymore by what has been used. You see what is happening in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. The young has taken over and are demonstrating that we don't need to go with begging bowls. Let's unite. This is a good model for the rest of Africa. Here, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger has united. And that unity has shown what they can do. Unity in strength. They have stopped the exploitation of their raw materials and their resources. They have stopped the exploitation of their raw materials. And they have stopped the disunity that was caused and created by France and others. So now we have to use that same model with the DRC
Hello,
and other
Ambassador.
places.
All right, thank you. And congratulations on the new feather that was added to your cap. See how we can mobilize the traditional rulers in Africa to drive African peace. But this is bewildering. Over 7 decades of independence in Africa, and we are still looking at people coming to divide and rule us. While other parts of the world in trade war, trying to build prosperity for their people, here in Africa, we are killing the men and the women that should champion the building of our continent. What really is wrong with Africa?
I think what is wrong with Africa comes back down to the same question that the continent is asking: leadership. Leadership and, vision and mission. These are 3 key things. What is the leadership prepared to do? Are we going to go back to, for me, myself, and I, and my family and friends, or for the people? That is key. What is my mission? What is my vision? We should be looking at the mission of Africa is to make sure we raise and elevate our people out of poverty, which they should not be in. And what is the mission? The mission is to ensure that we have free schooling, for example, free medical care, for example, food security, things that we have talked about all along. These 3 key things are the things that are going to bring us out of this situation. And let us have free movement among ourselves. Why should we allow people to have imposed borders and dissuade us from meeting and greeting with each other and sharing ideas and moving forward? These are things that we must deal with. Leadership and mission and vision for our people. And it must be a united frame. And that is the role of the AU. The AU now, under this new leadership, must take charge of providing good leadership, have plans. And I keep saying, we don't need other people's plans. Let us have an Africa Development Goal Initiative. Every year, we have our own plans and we review them. Is it Health for All this year? And everybody do like what is happening in Burkina Faso, build hospitals, provide good health care. Is it next year we have food security, provide tractors and get the farmers back to the land? Is it education for all, making sure that everybody takes and gets education? We have to have a plan, a master plan, like the Germans had, the Marshall Plan, like the Americans had, a Marshall Plan, like Mao Zedong had, a 50-year plan. We must have our own plans, follow our own plans, and carry them out diligently.
Ambassador, this is the real question that I'm asking. For 7 decades, Africa has been going through this trajectory, the same leadership question. I remember reading from Third War to First War, written by Lee Kuan Yew, his experience with the Commonwealth in the early 1960s, where he actually accounted that he saw that Africans were heading nowhere. And we seem not to have left that road. Why are we not getting the leadership question right?
Well, it is a question of the people having sold their souls for morsels. Are we going to allow and continue to allow people who have no vision, no mission, no plans for their people and for their countries to continue to lead? We have, I would call them political prostitutes. You have people who have no means of work ethic, no means of entrepreneurship, that go into the political class, and most of them are thugs. Most of them, they just want to get into power and steal the wealth and resources of the people. So leadership is key. I think we need to have more women and more youths involved in the political leadership process. And that is what we are not getting right. The 70 years has been a lot of neo-colonialists, people who were chosen, and if you did not follow the colonial rule, they will assassinate you. We know that. The history is there. So now we have to change the paradigm. The paradigm has to be, let's get more people like Captain Traore and others who are young, resilient, they are not taking nonsense, they know what the tricks are, and they know what they have to do for their people. Be selfless. They have to think, people first, me after. But right now, we have leadership who are me first, the people can go to hell, not even the people after. So the mindset has to change. The 70 years, we have to unshackle the decolonization route, the neocolonization route. We have to look inwards. Let's go to our own universities. Let us get languages as a standard for Africa. Let us get free trade, really be in free trade. Let's get to move among our people. These are things that are serious. We must do it. If we don't do it, we will not get there. The 70 years has to be unshackled.
Okay.
We need to get rid of people who want to be sitting tight for 40, 50, 60 years, falling asleep, you know, and they want to rule a country. No, that has to stop.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I want to take you back to when you started responding to Blessing's question. You talked about the way Africa is being influenced and how they are used to, divide themselves, and how those who come from the external influence they have, create discord within. So I want to ask, is it that the African man is inferior in its own mind or in its own self? What kind of stories are they being told by foreigners that will make an African man pick up arms against the government of his country, against his people in his own country, to go and cause disharmony and cause discord? What are they told? What kind of brainwashing is done to them? What kind of products they sell to them to make sure that they carry out the bidding of those who are coming to cause trouble in their country?
Yeah, you are so correct and very correct. You've hit the point on the head. And thank you for the congratulations. I'm now the Global Ambassador for the Forum of African Traditional Rulers and Authority. And I take this role very seriously because traditional rulers have a role to play in the future of the continent. We have to go back to what we are, what we have been, and what made us what we were in those days. So what has happened? You are quite correct. They have now used their religion, imposed it on us. They've now used their languages and their culture, imposed it on us. And they have told you that anything related to your tradition is evil, is bad, is wicked. Forget your languages, take our names. Come to Paris, come to London, come to New York. That's your mother country. Remember, during colonialism and slavery, they told you your mother country. So your father, which is Paris or France, your mother country, England, these were things. So you and your mindset has been dissected that, I must not listen to my traditional rulers anymore. They do voodoo. They're into too much spiritualism. And these are the things that made us great men and women of old. So they came and they broke that. They knew what they were doing. They had to break us spiritually. They had to break us culturally. And they had to break us and make us not believe in ourselves. We have to go back to that. So you are quite correct. It is what have been done to us. It is we must now be loyal to other people, the invaders. And that's what they are, the invaders who took the land, took trinkets and gave to you and said, this is what you do. Heaven is up there, and you wait and wish for that. Go and continue pray for this and that, right? And that is what will happen to you. Not to employ yourself and your skills and work to make things happen. What are the Chinese doing? From kindergarten, they're giving their kindergarten children skills, how to cook, how to make things, and be proud of work, till the land, look after gardens. We have been told, move away from that. Go to an institution and learn to be a worker. We don't need to be workers. We need to be shareholders of our resources. And so we need to shake off the shackles of the mindset that we look west rather than internally on the continent.
Now, this war situation in DRC has the potential to cause regional instability. There are some countries that have been accused of supporting the M23 rebels, particularly Rwanda, even though Rwanda has denied its involvement in that. What do you think could be the consequence of this on the region?
Well, the consequence is that you will have a massive outflow of refugees moving to all the neighboring countries, and in itself creating another cycle of violence and anti-country activities. And this is part of the model of the West, to create chaos. And among the chaos, remember, they found UN trucks and military interventionists carrying raw materials, gold, diamond, etc., in their vehicles and on their aircrafts. So they want to exploit the resources, create the chaos, and the chaos, if it continues, it is an easy find for all the raw materials and all resources that we have. As I say, it comes back down really to the raw materials and resources of the Congo, who has, in some cases, 90% of the needs of Western Ireland. They don't want to pay for it. They don't want to pay us for it. They don't want the people and the country to benefit from it. We have to stop and say, no, like Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, no, we are now going to take control of our resources. We are going to add value locally, and we will negotiate what we sell our resources for. And more importantly, like Libya did, let the country people benefit. Give them the dividends of those raw materials as shareholders. Because what did Libya do? What Libya did was created shareholders of their country. You got the benefit of the oil. You got the benefit of the gold. They had free schooling, free medical. Even when they got married, they got a free house. That was the outpouring of the shareholding of the benefits of the raw material that was exploited in their country by their leader. And, God continued to bless him wherever he is. He was doing the right thing for Africa. And Africans did not wake up to that. But no, they prefer to go with begging bowls, what you call shake hands, photo opportunities, and, oh, we've been to the mother country, oh, we've been to the father country, not thinking about themselves and their own country. It is just imagery. That's it. They're just doing photo ops, but not thinking about what are the real things that they have to address in the country and on the continent. And that's why we need a united plan, a Marshall Plan, which the AU must now think about to adopt.
Okay. Now, there are several dynamics to this ongoing war. Countries within the region have become involved in one way or the other. I mentioned earlier the accusation of Rwanda being behind the M23 rebels. And there are other countries who are either on the side of the Democratic Republic of Congo armed forces fighting on their side, or accused of supporting rebels as well. Could there be other undertones to these alleged supports?
Well, yes, I think there are undertones. The undertones is who is involved, who is leading who's being compromised, and why. So, okay, you have accused, and when I say you, I mean they have accused Rwanda, and Rwanda has said they are not involved. But we don't know. We don't know for sure. What are the dynamics? It probably comes back down to also to tribal allegiance and tribal alliances. And that is one of the, problems that we have as Africans. The tribal allegiances, the ethnicities, and people exploit that. for their own good. Westerners exploit that for their own good. And that's why I talk about unity. Let's see ourselves as brothers and sisters and not see ourselves as tribalists. So if my tribe is over the border and they are in the DRC Congo, I have naturally to support them and to protect them. Is this not what Russia and Ukraine was about? Russia, apart from NATO, the NATO moving into the space of Russian borders, but the Russians said they were, protecting their kith and kin in certain parts of the Ukraine. So, the human factor of ethnicity and tribalism, and see, my real brother is just my real brother, my ethnic or tribal constituents. If that is pushed, then that is what will probably cause the undertones. The undertones that we were talking about here and exposing is that there is tribalism. There's no doubt about that. And we have got, as traditional rulers and as traditionalists, we have got to say, I am my brother's keeper. Let us trust each other. Because the mistrust was also created. The mistrust was created to exploit us as Africans. So the undertone has to do with protection of interests. Apart from the interests of maybe those who are being driven by ex-colonial powers and Westerners, there is the tribal aspect, there's the ethnic aspect. Those are the undertones that are not spoken about, and we need to address that.
Okay, Ambassador. We also see that the African Union and ECOWAS in West Africa here has not been able to actually do much in terms of mediating conflict within the region. We see NATO heavily involved in the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, and they are putting resources on the ground to ensure that they are able to deter Russia from advancing. What can we do really to strengthen the AU so that some of these crises, from Sudan to DRC and other places and the hotspots in Africa, that African Union leaders can actually put their feet on the ground and ensure that there is peace in the continent?
This is a very brilliant proposition. I think the AU must now have a standby deployment force. No, and I wouldn't want to say force, because I don't want to say that force should be used continuously. I think more as a separator. Let's separate the warring sides. Let's go in and let's start the brokering of peace, because that's the key and important thing. Let us go in as peacekeepers, right? The UN has peacekeepers, right? So we go in as peacekeepers. Let every country send a contingent under the AU, or the hem of the AU, as African Union peacekeepers, AU peacekeepers. And let's go in all those hotspots and broker peace. We sit down with the conflicting sides, whatever their grievances, whether it's ethnic, whether it's tribal, whether it's land issue and resources. Let's sit down as brothers. Under Ubuntu, isn't that what we did before? Under Ubuntu, the community got together for the good of the community, for the good of us all. Let us employ and apply Ubuntu to these situations on the African continent. And let's have an AU rapid deployment peacekeeping force. And that's important. Peacekeeping, and go in and diffuse all the situations. We have to, because nobody's going to do it for us. Instead, anybody else coming in increases and like you have on your front burner, they put fire among us. And sit back and laugh and say, look at us, we are killing each other and we are taking away what they have. And we are not the better for it. At the end of the day, we have to sit down and solve our solutions for ourselves. African solutions to African problems. And we have ways that we did it before, how we solved our problems. Africans doing it for themselves, by themselves. And those are the things that I talk about early on in my proposition on Africacy. Africacy has to do with getting back the traditional rulers involved And I'm happy that the traditional rulers recognized my work to be able to appoint me as their global ambassador so that they play an integral part in the leadership and development of the country. They should be part of parliament. They are like the lords in the House of Lords. They may sit and then say, okay, gentlemen, this is the problem. Let's go back to our traditional rulers. Let us sit down and parley with them. Let us sit down and discuss these issues. And from all sides, the traditional rulers from Rwanda, the traditional rulers from the DRC, the traditional rulers from South Sudan, let's get together and let's solve this for ourselves. African solutions to African problems. Africans doing it for themselves, by themselves. We don't need brokering from outside. We have had Ubuntuism. We have had ways of doing things ourselves before. Let's re-employ that and let the African Union play its role significantly now under this new leadership.
Okay. Looking at the invitation that is now being extended to Donald Trump by the government that's supposed to be on the day to come help out, where would this leave Africa in light of the confession of the economic hitman, that we know that the United States of America is sponsoring corporations to actually help pillage continents in the developing world?
Right. The confessions of most of these economic hitmen, I'm happy that it was exposed because it tells you how the West operates. And they have not hidden it. They have not hidden it. Trump is a businessman. Whether he's a president or not, he has been steeped in business. And notice what he did. Immediately, he saw the opportunity. They are giving me minerals for peace. They can't solve peace for themselves. Okay, I'll go in and take advantage. What did he do? He now promotes his son-in-law, who knows nothing about conflict resolution, to go in and do the business for him. Go and negotiate the deal. Keep it in the family. That's really what it is. It's nothing to do with the American coming to assist the DRC. I mean, the DRC, I must say, is very stupid to think that the Americans will come and give him help to do what? What is he doing? What is Trump doing? Trump is just saying immediately, my son, which is my son-in-law, go in there, take the minerals, and keep it in the Trump family. That's really what it is at the end. And let's be honest. Let's be transparent. It's not even for the benefit of America. It'll be for the benefit of the Trump organization and family. And, you know, if you are given a free pass, why not take it? He will take advantage of it, and you can't blame him. You can't blame him for taking advantage. So let the African Union get in now and stop that nonsense and say, let us get a peacekeeping force in there. Let's sit down with Tshisekedi. Let's sit down with the rebels. Let's sit down with all the parties in the conflict, and let's get together and solve this ourselves. We have the ability, capability, and the wherewithal to do it. Let's do it.
Thank you very much,
It's not rocket
Ambassador.
science.
Yes, thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, let me play the advocate of the countries and those whom you have termed invaders, because Africa, we've come a long way. Some decades back, Africa, served as the terrain, and there's a particular magazine that emerged from that, the scramble for Africa by the European powers. That moved, and now again, it's as if the same thing is repeating itself, and the adage says, once bitten, twice shy. Now, we could see that Germany, immediately the French troop left Mali. Germany came in there, and Mr. Olaf Scholz, sent delegation there to go to make some form of bilateral relations, to mend fences there. America too is there, still on the sideline. Egypt was receiving Mr. Sergei Lavrov, who is the diplomatic instrument of Mr. Vladimir Putin. So they are mending fences. So Russia is not completely isolated from the situation. Emmanuel Macron is parleying Cameroon and some other Francophone countries to make sure that they keep their relationship intact. And from all this visit, Anthony Blinken himself went to Democratic Republic of the Congo and some other African countries to make, and documents always emerge from this visit. And it is termed the next blueprint with the relationship with Africa. So for African countries, whenever this visit takes place, what are their own blueprints in relating with the West to make sure that they do not just serve as a platform to be pillaged by the West, but also they are going to be, at the advantageous position to also get from the West what, would touch the bone of the West. So we cannot say, are we going to continue to sing the song that the West is pillaging Africa? Africa should come to a place where they have, the brain enough to also intellectually pose a resistance. Don't you think so?
Well, you are making some very valid and solid points, but I must say it goes back to what we just spoke about before. Where is Africa's blueprint? It is correct, it is missing. Where is Africa's Marshall Plan? You are correct, it is missing. And whose role is it to create that blueprint? We have now the African Union, which must create a framework for engagement. We're not saying that we are isolated from the rest of the world, but we must have our own blueprint, our own Marshall Plan, and then we engage. When we have our own Marshall Plan, we are saying, okay, we will have people who will engage with us, who will do the things we want. For example, local content development, transfer of technology. That should be standard. That should be standard on the African continent. Do not come to exploit. If you want to engage with us, let us have reciprocals. You give us whatever technology you have, if we have it missing, and help us to develop our own. That is good relationship. That is good diplomatic and engagement. Treat us as you treat yourselves in Europe and in the West, as partners in progress, not as, again, exploiters and pillaging. Yes, I have to use the term pillaging because if they see the opportunity that you do not have a Marshall Plan, they will pillage. It is natural. It is natural. You will pillage and you will exploit as long as you can until the people who own the resources wake up. And we have to have our own Marshall Plan. We have to have our own blueprint, and that must be a united. And that's the role of the AU now. The AU now must have their own policy framework of engagement for the African continent. The African continent must now say we have one common currency. We have, of course, we already have a free trade area. And now we have a blueprint for engagement. So before anyone comes and rushes to have bilateral individual, what they do is they select individual countries and do individual contracts and individual negotiations. They should not be doing that. They should be going to the AU to negotiate, and the AU negotiate on behalf of the continent. Protect the individual countries who they know are weak and poor. What is Cameroon and Gabon and they doing? And that is, they are still looking up to France. Oh, please, please stay and make sure you don't break us as well, because that is going to be bad for us. No, they should go to the AU and say what they would like to do and negotiate with the AU, not go and negotiate unilaterally. And that's what I'm saying. Unilaterally, they go to each country, especially the weak. The Germans will fly in, the French will fly in, where they still have support. Every one of them are going to do that. Go to the AU. Isn't it the European Union that negotiates on behalf of the European countries? Yes, they do. And they do that very strongly. Is it not they that created the euro as one single currency so that they can trade and protect themselves when all of their currencies had gone to nothing? Yes, and Africa must do the same. So to say pillaging is still a correct word, because if you see an opportunity to exploit and pillage and plunder, you will do it. And that's the mindset of what I call the invaders, even currently today. So we must have our own blueprint. We must have our own framework. We must have a paradigm shift. And we must make the AU have total responsibility for protecting the individual countries who are weak and who are there to be exploited because they don't have the ability to negotiate on their own.
Ambassador Wallace, let's look at this mindset thing. Is this just on one side, or the invaders wanting to pillage Africa? Are some Africans not also pillaging Africa? Are they not enjoying this situation? Now let's look at the DRC situation. 70% of the global supply of coltan and cobalt, which is used in electronics, comes from DRC mines through illegal mining. If we look around Africa, countries that have mineral resources, there's a lot going on. Illegal mining. Even in Nigeria, we still have the challenge of illegal mining. So has it not become a thing where it's a two-way traffic? As much as we have the invaders, we also have the Africans who are opening the door to invaders and enjoying the situation, leading to mistrust, where the countries do not even trust the AU or even ECOWAS to do any form of negotiation for them. Let's not forget what also happened between ECOWAS and Niger Republic, Mali, and Burkina Faso.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so you've hit on some very good points there, Blessing. One, the selfish individuals in some of our African countries see this as, let us take what we can for ourselves and do the bidding of people who come and flash money, forgetting that the resource that they have is money for them to be earned and their community. So a lot of communities, like in Ghana, allowing illegal mining, in the DRC, it is just related to the individual communities who are seeing an opportunity for them and they themselves alone because they're isolated. And yes, the ECOWAS, who was actually being urged and pushed by the outsiders to break up what was now a united front with the Sahel, the AES, which is now created, to stop that from happening because the interest was coming from the outside. So the individual interest, and of course, some of our leaders, as you know, have been compromised. It is said that a lot of them have hidden secrets, whether they have been stealing, whether they have been compromised in other ways that the Europeans know, and they're going to tell them, we will expose you or we'll bring you down, or in some instances, like they've done before, they'll be assassinated if they don't do their bidding. So sometimes, these individuals who are, of course, the two-way traffic you talk about, have been compromised. And also the selfish interest. Again, it comes back down to the selfish interest and to some extent also tribalism. So if I'm in my community and I can monopolize my resources with an outsider, let me do it because I'm not being taken care of by my own country. And that's the other side of the story. So if we had a united framework and plan, and you're saying that they don't trust the AU, who has to trust who? If the leaders got together under the AU flagship and have decided on a plan, a 5-year plan, and it is being carried out, then the trust has to be built. And what is happening is that they are not seeing the trust with the ECOWAS and with the AU because whoever has been at the helm of these organizations did not demonstrate to Africans that they could be trusted because there was no Africa plan. There was no Africa plan that the AU and ECOWAS was implementing truly, and that is what has to be done. We need to be vociferous as Pan-Africanists and say, you who are, responsible for protecting us, do our bidding. These are the plans and we must implement and carry them out.
All right, thank you so much, Ambassador Williams Wallace, the Honorable Consul General Antigua and Barbuda to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for being on the front burners today.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Look forward.
Thank you.
Okay, after that wonderful conversation, we'll take a break and return to talk about death penalty in Nigerian criminal laws. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, and monitoring and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. For more information, email us at info@adstudiescenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit our website, www.adstudiescenter.com, to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
All right, let's talk
In operation or punishments, is death penalty, applies to offense.
on that move. Do you think there is necessity? It's a bill of necessity.
The argument, and if you really want to delve into that, it, if you really want to delve into that, it's an issue that
cases, the efficacy is something that you can only determine the results by studying what has actually the reaction to the effects, of putting such laws in place. In my honest opinion, um, when the laws of several states were amended to accommodate capital punishment for kidnapping, which recently became a scourge in Nigeria. It wasn't something we used to see a lot of, but all of a sudden, it suddenly started happening all over the place. And so, as a deterrent, the law was amended to accommodate capital punishment for offenses such as kidnapping. It has always been there for murder, but then it was also extended to also accommodate kidnapping. But the effect so far would not suggest that it has had that it has become a deterrent to the offense because it still is on the rise. Kidnapping has become almost an industry in Nigerian society today. So as a deterrent, I don't think it has had the effect that it was supposed to have in several cases.
Thank you for being our guest this morning. Also looking at it, aside the military era in Nigeria, we've seen really that no civilian government quick to actually append their signature to death warrants. And could this be the real motivation why we say, well, we have a lot of people who are still on that role and no governor has ever signed in recent times people to die? Should we just expunge it? Or do you think it's for its merit? That people are also thinking that somehow morality suggests that you cannot take another person's life. But in the face of crime, we also see crimes like the Asians, where this kind of punishment is taken very seriously, and we can see the level of growth and economic development going on right there. What do you think will be the real motivation around this new consideration?
Well, arguing from a moralistic point of view, as to say that the argument against death penalty is one that has footing in morality. The truth remains that even the religious texts that most of us adhere to, the Bible, the Quran, all actually recommend death penalty on some level. So, being that one of the highest yardsticks for morality is usually the religious yardstick, and being that even religion supports the death penalty in certain cases, I would think that the morality behind or against the argument for death penalty does not really hold much water when you consider other factors. For example, I don't see how the moral argument against death penalty is going to pacify a mother who has lost her son to a mindless killer who has deprived her of that child for no tangible reason except for maybe he's a serial killer who just enjoys taking the life of other people. If one were to lose their child to at the hands of such a thoughtless, inconsiderate person, I don't see how the argument that taking the life of another person is immoral when such a person has actually displayed no regard for the very life you are trying to value in his own case. If a person has no value for the life of another, he or himself is not entitled to that consideration. It would be unfair to give consideration to a person who has no consideration for the life of others. So the argument for morality, while it's seemingly solid, doesn't hold water when you look at it against other considerations. Now, looking at a country like China, where they have actually marked significant progress, and where in their own jurisprudence, the death penalty is something that is seriously upheld and practiced. I would not want to attribute, or I don't think it would be actually correct to attribute the extent of their development and progress so far merely to death penalty being implemented or practiced in their jurisdiction. That will not be correct. They are where they are today because apart from having a very strict adherence to the rule of law, to the practice of the rule of law, they have also made the efforts and the necessary investments in those areas and those sectors that have resulted in the progress, the development, and the heights that they have attained today. So putting that side by side against Nigeria, for example, I think that what we are lacking and what they possess is a strict adherence to the rule of law and actually majoring in what they should major on, as opposed to majoring in minor issues. If you bring that home today to look at the position of the House of Representatives, which is suggesting that they are looking to try to make means to outrightly abolish the practice of death penalty in Nigeria, I would say that on the face of it, it may seem like a noble gesture, one that should get support and credence on the face of it. But looking deeper into the substance of it, the question now comes up to ask, why were these penalties imposed in the first place? It is not a penalty that is...
Omashoyi Esquire, the questions that you are propping up now, we will look at those questions and even ask more regarding the criminal codes and penal codes in Nigeria, what they say regarding death penalty and the use of this code in both the northern and southern part of Nigeria after this break. Please stay tuned.
Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission, empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing, and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 439 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
What keeps the heartbeats of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Study Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission, empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation.
Many thanks for staying tuned to the front burners. This is Policy Discuss, and we are looking at the bill in the House of Reps that's seeking to abolish death penalty in Nigerian criminal laws. So we have Tosin Omashi, Esquire, joining virtually, already discussing the issue. We've looked at some aspects of it, how we came to have the law or the codes that has to do with death penalty, and what crimes have death penalty attached to them, which Tosin Omashi Esquire has talked about already.
Yes,
Pray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tosin. Can you hear me if you can? Now, my colleague Doc asked a question earlier, and he referenced China and all of that. Now, the reason why the China and some other Asian countries have that in place, imposing death penalty, most especially on hard drugs and drug peddlers, though it has stemmed the tide, but not completely, because people still engage in it. However, because we all know the adverse effect that drugs can have both on the young population, which is the pride of a nation, and they have the wherewithal so that their mental abilities do not deteriorate and become less useful to the government of their country, because they need to participate in issues regarding business, economy, and development in their nation. Of course, become some of the doyens of industries in their nation. So they are trying to hinder that from happening. And this does not attach to some of the things that you mentioned earlier, that in Nigeria, it's either treason, kidnapping, or murder that death penalty is attached to. Are there other criminal activities in Nigeria that will really limit the development of the country, except death penalty is attached, so that it will reduce those kind of criminal activities in the country?
Well, crime is something that usually takes place because there is a motivation to commit it. People don't go about kidnapping as a hobby. People don't peddle drugs as a hobby. People don't get involved in armed robbery as a hobby. More often than not, there's a motivation behind engagement in criminal activities. And more often than not, the reason for engagement in criminal activity is financial gain. Financial gain. Now, using Nigeria and China as the case study, what does China possess that Nigeria lacks right now in abundance? Industrialization, gainful economic activity for a large population. China is one of the most industrialized countries in the world. in short, it is it is the industry hub of the world. Several innovations emanate from China, technologically, engineering, across different sectors. China is your go-to place. Most of the importations that take place in Nigeria today are always really goods from China. So, what has really helped China stem the trend of criminal activity? Is it merely the promulgation of laws that threaten to take your life when you commit an offense? Or can you also equate it to the provision of gainful economic activities for their citizens? Looking at Nigeria as a case study and China, yes, I agree that in China, many of the designated criminal activities to which the death penalty is attached include offenses like corruption, offenses against the state, where that involve the abuse of power or the dereliction of duty, which is not the same in Nigeria, where the major offenses where you find the capital punishment attached in Nigeria are, like I said earlier, murder, kidnapping, treason, and armed robbery. While that is not the same here, you will find that most of the crimes to which the death penalty is attached here in Nigeria are crimes that are motivated more often than not by poverty. So it's like when you commit a crime of embezzling 100 billion naira, even 100 trillion naira in Nigeria, the contemplation that you may lose your life, if found guilty, does not arise. So it's not a deterrent in those cases. However, if we really want to scrutinize that much more closely, how often are people even convicted of such offenses in Nigeria? It is not a secret, and I will make bold to say that most public officials in Nigeria are actually guilty of misappropriation of public funds. In short, their lifestyle is evidence to this fact. However, how often do we find the law enforcement agencies engage in active prosecution of persons who we believe to be culpable of such offenses in Nigeria? So, what China has is not just laws that pretend to attack certain offenses. They have laws that they actually enforce, which brings us to the burning issue of how viable is the rule of law in Nigeria as a general application. How much of general application of the rule of law do we see in our day-to-day activities in Nigeria? Is the rule of law something that really takes hold and precedence in Nigeria? So perhaps if we were to actually have a system where the rule of law was paramount and took precedence, perhaps it's not a question of whether we have to involve the death penalty. I believe that the laws in place, if properly enforced, are enough of a deterrent if properly enforced.
However, but Barrister, look at it from this perspective. Maybe we may not have that grand law because maybe sometimes we also not do too much of root cause analysis. I was in the UAE once and somebody said to me and said, imagine that light went off here. And when they say head we roll, because you have to understand the implication of light going off on the entire society, because a lot of people will be trapped and people will die, and that is equal to murder. Or that there's negligence of a doctor trying to deliver a baby and the baby dies. That's actually murder in those environments. And therefore, people become really very careful and they are doing their work and they understand that, look, if I do an act and it has implication on another person's life and may result in another person's death, I can actually be charged for murder, which of course attract capital punishment. And therefore, you see sanity. Here, for example, we don't have too much of those even execution happening in the first place, even for those who courts of law have properly actually handed over their sentence to. They have not been executed. Some of them 10 years, 20 years, still awaiting the warrant signed by the governors of each state, and each successive governor tend to avoid them and they are there in the prison and staying perpetually. But what I'm saying is, if you look at those crimes where people understand that if I commit an act, even if I'm not actually taking a knife to kill somebody, but I've done something that has endangered, or maybe the money that was made to have built hospitals, and people are dying in the community, and this is, of course, is murder, and those people are punished seriously, that could actually become huge deterrent to people getting into those nefarious activities.
That is a fair argument. And on the face of it, I would want to also say, yes, it is something that, but like I earlier said, it's not enough for us to enact laws. Any society can enact any law it so deems fit, But the practicality of those laws, the extent to which we would enforce those laws. In Nigeria, for example, it is not a secret that monies meant to be expended for the good of society are constantly embezzled. And as we stand, there are laws against that. The question is, how often are these persons who are in these positions even penalized based on the existing laws? You have to have a working system to be able to achieve certain objectives. Even if we made it, even if we promulgated laws today that said, okay, corruption will become the offense of corruption will now carry a capital punishment attached to it. How effective would that law be when it comes to implementation of the law? It's not a question of whether the law exists. Will it work? Will the law work? For the law to work, it comes back to the question of the effectiveness of the rule of law. As a deterrent against crime, in Nigeria, for example, the offense of armed robbery did not used to carry the death penalty. In short, at the time, the offense of kidnapping was not an offense we gave much thought to because it was not something that was really prevalent in society. But when it started becoming more of a scourge, many states amended their laws to attach the penalty of death sentence to the offense of kidnapping. Looking at our society today, has that actually helped to stem the tide? The answer is no. And it's not from a want of convictions or a want of arrest or want of implementation. The reason being that more often than not, the persons who engage in the offense of kidnapping are people who are largely economically disadvantaged. More often than not, they are motivated by poverty. So more often than not, when they get entangled in the web of the law, they usually lack the wherewithal, the sophistication, the background to even get sufficient enough legal representation to escape the penalty. But still, it remains a scourge in our society where most people are still afraid to travel by road by any time of the day for fear of encountering kidnappers. So, as a deterrent in our society, Nigeria in particular,
In a
the
deterrent
death sentence has not
to
seemed
such crimes.
to carry.
You talked
Can you
about
hear
the
me?
death. Yes, we can hear you. I'm asking the question. Now, you've talked about the death penalty not being a deterrent to crimes such as kidnapping. Now, how many convicted people or convicted criminals have we seen actually facing death penalty? Even when the court's judgments places that, we also find that sometimes these judgments are appealed. And year after year, the public is following to ensure that, okay, let's see what happens. The media is also following and tracking. But a year goes by, a person that has been convicted of a crime and it has been charged to face death penalty, we've not seen that happen. Do you think that is part of the reason why it is not serving as a deterrent for which it was intended to be? That's one question. On the other hand, we have the criminal code and the penal code. So the chairman of the House of Rep Committee on Human Rights, Honorable Makinde, was speaking, and he cited instances where in some parts of the country, people have been, the death penalty have been used for crimes such as stealing, which he considers as not being serious enough or not being in line with internationally considered serious crimes. Is that because we have the Criminal Code and the Penal Code, and we know that in the northern part of the country, we also have the Sharia law. Could you speak to this, which the House of Reps is seeking to amend?
Now, beginning from the first question as to whether or not the lack of actual execution of persons who have been sentenced to death, or the lack of it thereof, is a reason for it not being a deterrent, I would say that's really not the case. The reason being that, for me, where a person is sentenced to death, the effect is that such a person is taken out of circulation. You know, if a person were to be sentenced to death, it means rather that he is not going to be a free man for the rest of his life. Whether or not he's executed by the state or when he's executed by the state is a second question. Now, the reason why there is such delays, or most of the time it takes a long time before we actually see persons who are sentenced to death being executed, is because, as a matter of practice, where a person has been sentenced to death by a high court, there is an automatic right of appeal because of the gravity of the punishment. So more often than not, that decision has to go through the process of appeal up onto the Supreme Court before such a person can be executed. However, I will agree with you that even in many cases where the matter has gone up to Supreme Court level, and the Supreme Court has also affirmed the decisions of the lower court with respect to, the capital punishment being appropriate in those cases, there is still a delay in executing these judgments. And this comes because of, or this happened from my own understanding. It is more because several governors do not want to be seen, or in their own personal opinion, do not want to be seen as having blood on their hands. So they shy away from executing death warrants that are necessary for the execution of these convicts. So I think that is one of the issues that we also need to address. There should be a law that mandates a governor to do his job. So where a governor has the prerogative to decide whether or not he's going to follow up with an order of the court that a man who has committed an offense should actually face the penalty, it's an issue that we also need to address, perhaps by legislation. There should be a time frame within which a governor must sign a death warrant where that penalty has been affirmed by the Supreme Court. So it comes down to leaving so much undone. It's not enough to blame the legal system to say, oh, people who have been sentenced to death are not executed. The warden of the prison is not the one with the responsibility to just decide that, okay, since this man has been sentenced to death, let me go and hang him, or let me administer a little injection, or let me gas him. It doesn't work that way. There must be a death warrant signed by the governor. And if the governors are allowed to continue to shy away from their responsibilities of following through with the responsibilities that they stood election to carry out, they will continue to suffer these consequences. And at the same time, we want to blame the law or the system. No. It is the governors who are actually standing in the way of these judgments being executed. And that is what we should try to address if we want to see a change in that direction. That's on the one hand. Now, on the issue of the laws, the penal code and the criminal code, and the application of the death penalty to offenses that are seen as less than worthy of the death penalty, I think the misconception comes from a case-to-case application. And the thing about cases is that where one hasn't actually had the privilege to go into the proper details of the case, one may easily be misled as to how the outcome, got to where it is. For example, the law prescribes the capital punishment for an offense of armed robbery. An offense of armed robbery is one where a person carries out an offense of robbery by use of a dangerous weapon. It doesn't matter if I killed anybody. What matters is that my intention to commit robbery with a weapon that could actually have taken the life of another is an indication that I had the intention to potentially deprive someone of their life if in the process of executing that unlawful purpose I was interfered with. For example, if an armed robber comes to a person's house and says, everybody lie down, where are all the valuables? And we all cooperate, for example, and we present them all our valuables, and they are satisfied, and they make away with these valuables, and they are caught in the process. Though no life has been lost, the fact that you have presented yourself such a dangerous person that could potentially deprive the life of another, merely because you seek to deprive them of their lawful property, you are a danger to society, and the law recommends that your life be taken. If in the process of this unlawful purpose, all I stole was a chicken, does that make me less of a danger?
I want to just find out, do you think that this move is just to make us look good in the face of the international community rather than actually addressing the core issue of crime in our environment? We're also looking at a situation where even those people who are advocating for no use of capital punishment because of human rights, also in cases we see them after terrorists and eliminating and neutralizing bad elements from society so that they can have a sane and clean society. So what is the real driving force outside of just being clean in the eyes of the international community? How will a no capital punishment reduce crime in our environment?
This question is a very, 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 very important question. Like you have rightly asked, could it be that this is a move to just launder the image of our country in the eye of the international community? If I will speak from my mind, I will say the answer is yes. And I will give reason for that answer. The Punch newspaper, in a publication made on the 18th of May 2024, actually published that our House of Representatives had indicated their solid support for the move to apply the death penalty for the offense for drug-related offenses. They lent their support and, full short, they were very, very unequivocal in their support that if the Senate were to successfully pass a bill that actually attach the death penalty to anything drug-related, they would support it without hesitation. It is surprising to see that less than a year later, in the face of serious outcry against the death penalty recently imposed, I believe, on American citizens by the Supreme Court, or the affirmation of a death penalty on an American citizen by the Supreme Court, we are seeing a sudden 360 turn where there are suddenly moves to abolish the death penalty from the criminal and penal code. The truth of the matter is that even if you were to abolish the death penalty from the criminal code and the penal code, it will still require the different states to domesticate this law for it to become applicable. The reason being that the criminal law system in Nigeria is usually one that applies more on a state-to-state basis than on a federal basis. What am I trying to say? The attachment of death penalty to the offense of kidnapping was not done by the National Assembly. It was done by most states of assembly, state houses of assembly. So this move, to me, seems more of a political one, more of an image laundering attempt than an actual concern for achieving justice. Because one would even ask themselves that if we really, really had an interest in regularizing, the legislation that governs the administration of criminal justice in Nigeria, why are we even having two different codes, one for the north and one for the south? Are we different people? And what is the reason for the different codes in the first place? So there's a lot of politics behind this agenda.
Thank you very much, Barrister Tosan. Now, this question, I think you already you already know the answer, so I'm just going to make sure I get that again. If the House of Assembly from each state or the National Assembly legislators promising to give their backing for death penalties to any cases that is related to drugs, one is also tempted to ask, if China is also putting death penalty for corrupt government officials, why won't the National Assembly or State Assembly or politicians begin to consider legislations that will impose death penalty if anyone is found of abusing public office entrusted to them by way of stealing public funds, misappropriating public funds for personal purposes, and the likes? Do you think if we make such law, it will see the light of day?
Like I earlier indicated, if you pay close attention to most of the offenses that carry the capital punishment in Nigeria, save for the offense of murder, most of these offenses are motivated by severe economic disadvantage. Most people do not commit crimes, serious or trivial, because they are bored. Most of the time, crime and even corruption is motivated by poverty.
In the country who divert public funds are motivated, when they commit crime of diverting public funds, they are motivated by economic disadvantage?
I was going to land. I said most, I didn't say all. If you want to take a census of the number of people who are in the actual capacity to divert public funds, as opposed to the number of people who are engaged in the public sector and engaged in corrupt practices for financial advantage, you will find that it is actually a very, very, very minute percentage. For example, the average, say, traffic officer on the road, or the ordinary policeman at the checkpoint, or the clerk at the civil service office who is asking for a handout or, give me something to push your file. Most of those people are doing it because they are economically disadvantaged. So if you want to now look at the ogas, quote and unquote, who are in a position to actually divert public funds, they are in the minute quantity. And those are the people who we are talking about when you talk about the class who are in a position to divert public funds. But when you want to talk about corruption generally, you see it encompasses both the ogas and the people at the bottom. So now, if you really want to pay attention to our legislations, you will find that the offenses for collecting bribe and other such little, tip-offs by public officials is already existing. However, moving to the grand level, the higher cadre of public officials who actually divert public funds, you will find that there's no specific law that deals with these infractions on the level that we are speaking about. And like you rightly asked, are we going to see such legislation, and would any move to enact such legislation going to see the light of day? It brings you back to the definition of law by none other than Karl Marx himself, who says that the law is nothing but a tool for the suppression of the masses. It's a tool with which the ruling class keeps and constantly suppresses the common man to ensure that there is always an undue advantage due to the ruling class. So the truth of the matter is that in view of the extent of corruption we have seen from high-placed public officials, in view of the large and mind-boggling amounts of money that we constantly see being recovered from public officials, it begs the question, why has it not gotten the due attention that it deserves? Why have we not chosen to emulate China in this regard? Why is it that in one breath, we are doubling down on the support to impose capital punishments on drug-related offenses, while in another breath, we are doubling down to completely abolish it across board, even for cold-hearted, premeditated murder? The double standard is very questionable, to say the least, in my honest opinion.
Well, thank you so much, Tosan Omashi Esquire, for speaking with us this morning as we looked at the House of Reps' move to abolish death penalty in Nigeria criminal laws.
It was a pleasure speaking with you guys this morning. Thank you.
All right, before we wrap it up, let's give you some facts about capital punishment, also known as death penalty. As of 2021, China, Iran, and Saudi Arabia emerged as the top 3 countries with the most number of executions. So far, 56 countries retain death penalty or capital punishment. 111 countries have totally abolished it for all crimes, while 7 countries have abolished it for ordinary crimes that they consider not serious enough for death penalty. Will Nigeria join the list of countries that have totally abolished death penalties, or will it retain death penalties like 56 countries of the world have done? We'll find out what happens at the House of Reps when they're done with that bill. All right, let's take a break. Coming up next is Posts and Perspectives. I'll say it's the time for us to hear from you.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
Nigerian leather industry has a storied history, particularly in the northern parts of the country, where the art of leather farming and crafting has been perfected over centuries. Traditionally, leather was used primarily for functional items like sandals, bags, and saddles, with little emphasis on fashion. However, the narrative has changed drastically in recent years, as Nigerian leather has evolved from a utilitarian product to a symbol of luxury and high fashion. Here is a special report by Bayo Olaoye. The turning point for Nigerian leather came as local designers began to recognize its potential beyond traditional uses. They started to experiment with new designs, creating products that appeal to the modern consumer while maintaining the heritage of craftsmanship. The result has been a wave of leather products that are not only functional, but also stylish and desirable on the global stage. One of the key factors driving the revolution is the exceptional quality of Nigerian leather. Known for its durability and unique texture, Nigerian leather, particularly from goats and cattle, has become highly sought after by fashion houses both within and outside Africa. This demand has encouraged local artisans to up their game, focusing on quality control and finishing techniques to meet international standards. Moreover, Nigerian leather products have benefited from the global trend towards sustainable and ethically produced goods. Consumers are increasingly turning away from massively produced items in favor of the handcrafted, sustainable alternatives. Nigerian leather made using traditional methods with minimal environmental impact fits perfectly into this narrative. This has opened up markets for Nigerian leather goods, particularly in Europe and North America, where there is a growing appreciation for products with a story and a conscience. The rise of Nigerian leather on the fashion scene is also closely tied to the country's booming creative industry. fashion designers, many of whom had gained international recognition, are incorporating leather into their collections and innovative ways, from sleek handbags and bespoke shoes to stylish jackets and accessories. The Nigerian leather is becoming a staple in high fashion. This trend is not only boosting the profile of Nigerian fashion, but also creating new opportunities for economic growth. The leather industry, once dominated by small-scale craftsmen, is now attracting significant investment. Entrepreneurs are setting up modern tannery and workshops, creating jobs and fostering skills development in the process. This industrialization of leather products is helping to formalize what was once an informal sector, leading to better working conditions and high incomes for artisans. However, the success of Nigerian leather market did not emerge without challenges. The industry still faces issues related to infrastructure, access to finance, and competition from imported goods. Additionally, there is the need for more investment in technology and innovation to further enhance the quality of leather products and make them more competitive in the global market. Despite these challenges, the future of Nigerian leather products looks bright. There is a growing recognition of the value of locally produced leather goods, both within Nigeria and globally. This is evident in the increasing number of fashion shows and trade fairs dedicated to promoting Nigerian leather products, as well as the rising demand from international buyers. The evolution of Nigerian leather from a utilitarian material to a symbol of high fashion is a testament to the creativity and resilience of the Nigerian artisans. It reflects the broader trend in the global fashion industry towards sustainability and craftsmanship. As the world continues to embrace African fashion, Nigerian leather is poised to become a major player on the international stage, offering a unique blend of tradition, quality, and style. This is just the beginning of what promises to be an exciting new chapter for Nigerian leather.
Okay, now let's find out what this you're saying or what you said so far regarding the conversations we've had there on the show. Now, in the course of news analysis, we talked about Lagos State hitting $2.259 billion GDP, ranking as Africa's second largest economy. Now, these are what you said regarding it. So, Jamilu Haruna says, Nigeria's current GDP stands at $194.96 billion, while another group is estimating Lagos GDP above the combined GDP of Nigeria, including Lagos itself. That's why we hardly believe in this bogus data. That's a strong point you've raised. Okay.
Not strong enough because it's the average that is taken.
Okay, so let's find out what PrimeTech_NG says. It says, that's good, but what will be the proof that Lagos earns a large GDP? There is no good drainage system. Any small drop of rain flood everywhere. There is no potable water system. Lagos needs to show working with what they earned. Okay, PrimeTech_NG, let me just do you this one. And that is, when we're talking about GDP, gross domestic product, we're talking about, let's just assume Lagos is one company. You and I and all the residents of Lagos, other companies are working in that company. So it's the sum total of the money that company makes for a year, you know, the company Lagos makes, not the Lagos State government. And the report also says that the tax to GDP ratio of Lagos State is actually low. That is not to excuse why we don't have a proper drainage system. But, you know, we also have a role in that. The ones that have been made, we should not put death into them to block them. Let's also complement the work of the state government. Moving on, we have another reaction to that. Lagos is proving once again why it's the economic heartbeat of Africa with a $259 billion GDP. It's only trading Cairo and outpacing entire countries. Now, the focus should be on making that wealth trickle down, better infrastructure, job creation, and a business-friendly environment. I would say, Sir Miyaki AI, you are spot on. Now, moving on, we have comments regarding the Labor Youth Ministries signing an MOU on initiative to create 2.5 million jobs. And Dr. Prayerman says, I pray that MOU will not stop at the minister's table due to their nasty bottlenecks procedures. The majority of intended international partners have been discouraged by the government, unable to provide them temporary offices and accommodation. No support, but to grab help. Okay, moving on. Let's see who else has spoken about that, or, yeah, what's it saying? So Brighton, with a handle at Bright_side, where exactly do they plan to manufacture those jobs from? What is this mediocrity? You're asking questions. Well, I just asked you a question for you. Perhaps they will tell us. They've talked about skill acquisitions and so. Clowns that have a litmus test. Your handle is very, very funny. So litmus test says, clowns that have never employed up to 100 people collectively in their private lives ever, talking of employing 2.5 million per year. Government has no obligation creating jobs. Create the right ecosystem and see jobs appear from everywhere. I'm going to let Priya react to this. So there are doubts regarding the 2.5 million jobs that the National Directorate of Employment, in conjunction with the Ministry of Youth and Development, says it wants to create.
Yes, I think people see the number 2.5 million, quite a huge and bogus number, because the government should be able to tell us if we will be able to do this between 3 or 5 years. So if the government had given a time frame for it, probably they would have had a rethink. But at the moment, they are looking like, okay, are you going to do that in your first tenure, in your first administration? And they are looking like, are you going to create this from? Are you going to explore the industries that we talked about during the show? Or are we going to, is it going to be new people you onboard into the system? What are you going to teach them? What industry are you going to, have you created that will suck them or bring them in? And those are questions that the government needs to answer to.
Okay, so our last conversation touched on the move by the House of Reps to abolish death penalty from Nigeria's criminal laws. And Babayeti says, not when you're fighting terrorists, kidnappers, bandits, and unknown gunmen. That seems to say it's ill-timed. So hang attack. Okay, hang attack 57026. Well, I don't know what those codes are, but that's your handle. You say death penalty shouldn't be tampered with. And that's, there's an exclamation mark there. Like, I'm really serious with this. Death penalty shouldn't be tampered with. All right, so before I let Doc react to this, okay, I'm just going to go straight away to Doc. So, the reps moved to abolish death penalty, and Bayeti is saying not when the country is still fighting terrorists, bandits, insecurity, basically. And then someone else says death penalty shouldn't be tampered with. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think Toussaint was just spot on when he argued earlier on the show that there's a need for us to look at what are the motivations for actually trying to look at removal of death penalty. Is it that it's not effective? Is it, of course, we just want to be good in some people's eye? And he averred that even the religion we practice, whether it's Christianity or Islam, both endorse this death penalty in some cases. And I think that is what it is. Crime is growing daily, and the need for a serious deterrence cannot be overemphasized. And I think that these nations that are advocating for human rights and lack of death penalty, they have grown up to a space. We have not arrived at that place. I think we should move at our own space. And I think that is what I would counsel.
All right, thank you so much, Doc. Let's move over to the sports corner. John Rogers Chooks will be telling us what clubs are making money, what companies are signing deals with them what sport now is trending so that Doc and I can think about the one we want to be a part of.
I hope he's facilitating the Liverpool move.
Oh, I'll leave that to Chooks to answer. All right, Chooks, it's over to you on Souq Sports.
Hello and welcome to Souq Sports. Now let's look for the money where sport is. Let's run, let's punch, let's jump, and let's make the money. Congratulations once again to IOC, that's the International Olympic Committee. They have done it again. They have gotten Alliance. Alliance has become the second brand to extend their worldwide sponsorship and partnership for the Olympic for 2032 to be precise. So first they got one, now they are adding more money. Marketing. Now, Sales Global have expanded their office in London. For those that are wondering, it's a Saudi club. It's a Saudi organization. It's a Saudi marketing, sports marketing firm. And they are taking this business beyond Saudi. They've put money in different sports, from golf to tennis to football. For those that were shouting initially, sorry, they are now in your doorstep. So they have a new office in London as we speak. So, Sailor, congratulations. If you're looking for competition, it's right there. Revenue, yeah. Everyone has been shouting, Man City, Man City. Yeah, Man City did very well. But their parent company, CFG, that City Football Group, they declared loss for last year, £122.2 million. They own several clubs, and they own several organizations, including City. City declared profit, but the parent company declared a loss. Let's get to what's happening in Lenovo. Lenovo is still pumping money into sports. China is not slowing down. Now, Lenovo has come up and they are telling us that, yes, Hannah Baber, they've appointed her as the new head of global partnership. They mean business. So if you know you have some particular issue, you have this particular sport that you need to push, talk to Lenovo. They have money to spend. Now, this is where I always go to. For those that say catch them young, college sports is big business, massive big business. And this happens to be March madness. And according to what we have right now, ad sponsorship and ad rentage and ad sales are almost hitting $1 billion just for 3 weeks competition. College sports, NCAA, congratulations to them. And we need to start developing ours like yesterday. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. We'll do this again tomorrow. Bye.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in
Lots of money exchanging hands in this world of sport, from sports merchandise to transfers, club buying players, and to other deals, even like building stadiums with large capacity to also generate revenue. Well, I don't know what club did that recently, but I know one actually did that. Maybe the next time I'll ask choose John Rogers. There's a reason I will not mention that club, because I want to do small pepper them for choose John Rogers. That's the show today. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessing Aiche. You know, I would ask that you do this with us again tomorrow, Friday, 7 a.m. West African time. I've been doing this with two great gentlemen who've been awesome. Dr. Idahosa Osamanze and, of course, Onyipere Krumale. Doc.
Yeah, nice being here. Our business here is to see how to convert your energy to wealth. And we will do it again tomorrow until we see you prosper.
Well, for me, you talked about Souq. I'm going to be asking Souq about the 75 million euros that Osimhen is earning and what Manchester and Arsenal is willing to offer. So tomorrow is a good day. Friday
Okay, for questions.
Yes.
It will just be a Q&A section on Souq Sports tomorrow.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job. Lateef Jakonde. Born Lateef Kayode Jakonde in the Ekbetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakonde began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakonde editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakonde established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakonde ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakonde established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakonde was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakonde was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakonde, Souq Enlightenment.
Directors, President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, distinguished editors, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Mr. Chairman, as part of your engagement, to engage with various stakeholders you have met with various groups, and another critical group that you are meeting today are members of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Of course, you had a meeting with NUG where they selected journalists from states of the Federation, where you share your vision and also seek for their support. It's the same thing we are here today. Editors, before you is the chairman of the ICPC. Before becoming the chairman of ICPC, he was the Commissioner of Justice in Jigawa State. And he has a vision that he intends to unveil, or he wants you to help him so that he achieve this vision. Dr. Musa Ali San is currently pursuing a vigorous restructuring of the ICPC that requires your support, your understanding. And that is why he came to Lagos purposely to meet with you and to seek for that support. Distinguished editors, I present to you as one of you. I present to you the chairman of ICPC and Dr. Musa Ali San. Mr. Chairman, you are welcome, sir.
The management staff of ICPC, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy and delighted to be in the midst of these distinguished Nigerians. And I have to say that we at ICPC, we really cherishes and greatly values the partnership with you all, because we know that you are really great and valuable because of the role which our Grand Norm has given to the media. And there is no doubt that your dedication to exposing corruption and enhancing our efforts has been crucial in fostering a more transparent society. And our decision to come here today is part of our determination to strengthen our partnership. That's why this breakfast meeting is not merely an event, but any affirmation of our shared mission to combat corruption and uphold integrity in Nigeria. And your support for the ICPC in delivering its statutory mandate, including its robust activities and initiatives in fighting corrupt practices and other related offenses in Nigeria, is really commendable, because you have been really helpful in enlightening Nigerians about the problem of corruption. And I'm personally filled with gratitude that the media has continued to positively boost the ICPC's anti-corruption public communication efforts. Your investigative reports, analysis, and overall dedication to truth have helped in exposing corrupt practices, because there are a lot of stories that you published which help us in our investigation. And most of these stories, they have led us to discovering some massive challenges that is facing, or that are facing our public sector. And if I may recall, there is one whereby it has to do with our youth. A contract supposed to be executed for the benefit of our youth, but the humongous amount of money was diverted. And it was as a result of one of you we discovered the challenge. So I thank you for the contribution. As we salute your commitment to the crusade against corruption, ICPC under my leadership is really serious to ensure that sustenance and heightening of our collaboration with you. And the media is not merely an observer, you are a frontline partner in the fight. And over the years, ICPC has adopted a strategic communication approach in line with Section 36 of the 1999 Constitution as amended and Section 27, Sub 4 of the ICPC Act. And these laws ensure the protection of suspects' rights while remaining strict, diligent, and stand in our actions. And ICPC will remain resolute in propagating the rule of law and protecting human dignity. And also, ICPC under my leadership prioritizes the protection of whistleblowers and the integrity of investigations. And transparency is a cornerstone of our work, and we will continue to provide verified information through official channels, which include press releases, newsletters, and our digital platforms. May I quickly review some of our engagement last year? Last year, because I was the Attorney General, and I rallied my former colleagues, we had a meeting in Abuja whereby we look at the challenge of corruption at subnational. We reviewed the problems and also agreed that we need to work together. As a former Attorney General, I know that they are critical because they are the chief law officers of the states. That is why I engaged them, and after the meeting we had in Abuja, we started the zonal engagement. We had one in Kano for the Northwest, where we discussed challenges around corruption within the zone. And also this year we are going to the other geopolitical zones to have similar deliberations. And also in September this year we are going to sit down and review what we have done to see how can we partner. Because I feel the attorneys general are critical. And as chief law officers, they need to work together with us, because by section 15 of the Constitution, all of us are supposed to put hand on deck in order to fight corruption and also to see how can we tackle abuse of office. And also, I had an engagement with Nigerian Institute of the NIPR, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, ICANN, Nigerian Bar Association, and various stakeholders on how can we partner in the fight against corruption. Because no single entity can fight corruption. We need to work together. So that is why I reach out to various stakeholders to ensure that we are on the same page. And last year, we were able to reach out fiscally 1,458,000 individuals through our 579 sensitization exercise conducted under our community engagement programs. And we issued about 188 press releases. And also the Commission experienced increased followership in our social media platforms. And also we introduced what we call ethics pods, a podcast, whereby we are sensitizing Nigerians around the issue of corruption. And also, there is no way we can succeed without having planning. Our strategic action plan 2024 to 2028 was unveiled last year, whereby we gathered stakeholders and discussed it, because that will be our focus on how we can work. And our strategic action plan is in line with the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, which has 5 pillars: corruption prevention, issue of enforcement and punishment, ethical orientation, and also enlisting public support of Nigerians, so that, and also recovery of proceeds of crime and management. And this is the area whereby we have upscaled our activities to see that we trace, recover, and manage the process of crime, and also to remit it back to the Consolidated Revenue Fund, so that we won't allow those allegedly took away what did not belong to them to go away with it. Because if you allow them, once they accumulate the process of crime, no doubt they will use it and also to fight back. And also they will deprive Nigerians with what they are supposed to have in the issue of infrastructure. So that's why we focus seriously in that area of recovery of proceeds of crime. And also ICPC, as you know, that it has laudable programs. And one of the key issues which I focus is that I ensure that I consolidate all what the previous chairman of ICPC have done, from late Justice Mustafa Akambi to Professor Wasoni. I ensure that all their programs are intact, and I'm building up, so that I want to ensure that we maintain that organizational culture of ICPC, and also for me to enhance what they did, most especially to focus on digital transformation, because this is an area whereby we need to use technology in the fight against corruption, most especially in the area of analytics, artificial intelligence, that we'll be able to analyze huge data. And I'm sure you're aware of the constituency and executive project tracking, which ICPC is well known about it. And I know last year we were able to track over 1,500 projects, which has value of over 600 billion naira. And so that at least Nigerians can get good quality projects that is in the budget. And also the Ethic and Integrity Compliance Scorecard, which is an initiative of ICPC, which measure institutions' adherence to ethical standards. We released the results, and I have seen the impact, because most of head of agencies that have not done well, they reach out. Chairman, why? What are our challenges? Can you help us to see that we overcome these problems? Which is really good, because I have never thought that it will have that impact. And why? Because of you here. You have gave it wide publicity. So because of that, most of the head of agencies now, they reach out. Please, how can we do well next year? So I thank you for the assistance. And also our sexual harassment prevention program, which is tackling corruption linked to abuse of power. Last year, I know that we had engagement with the civil society, where the ministers of the Minister of Education, then Professor Tahir Mamman, and the State Minister Yusuf Tanko Sununu, they were there. The former Minister of Affairs was there, and also over 20 commissioners of education across the country, they attended, because we discussed the challenge around the problem of sexual harassment, most especially in our tertiary institutions, because our students are victims of this challenge. So that's why ICPC has been doing its greats in that area, so that we ensure that we help our students, we protect them from sexual harassment. And I'm sure that you are aware that currently there is one of the senior academics that is facing trial at Abuja Federal High Court on this issue of sexual harassment. So, and we are determined to ensure that where there is credible evidence, any sexual harassment complaint tabled before us, we will make our efforts to ensure that we investigate it and also take the matter to court where there is evidence. Then there is our anti-corruption and transparency unit, ACTU, that they have been doing well in the various MDAs in order to help in ensuring that there is transparency and accountability in MDAs in this country. Then, when I came in, I tried to bring up my policy, which I call it Care for Impact, to ensure that ICPs as an agency, I consolidate the good culture of that agency, and also an agency which is unaccountable, responsible, and efficient in approaching all issues that are tabled before us. So that one too is something that I unveiled last year, and we have been using it. Now, recently, we are aware of the decision of the Supreme Court about the local government autonomy. So we have looked at the decision, and also we have been having various engagement with civil society to see how can we give our quota, how can we control our quota in ensuring that the local government autonomy operates the way it's supposed to, and also how can we follow what are happening in the local government councils. And we are trying to bring up what we call corruption prevention program for local governments, whereby we will monitor activities at all the 774 local government areas in this country. One problem we notice is that in this era of technology, there are only 7 local government areas in this country that have functional websites. So we feel that is not right. So we will now try to see how can we use technology to force the local government council to make information available to Nigerians so that Nigerians can follow what they are doing. You, also the editors and other media stakeholders, can be able to follow what are they doing so that we will monitor if there are issues, questions can be asked. We too, we can follow because we don't have the enough manpower to go over all the 774 local government areas. But we feel technology can help us. And we know that practically, I don't think there are procurement processes in our local government councils. This is an area where we need to look at. And also, we will ensure that there are mechanisms around control of corruption, around the issue of finances of local government councils. So we will team up with the media, with the civil society to ensure that information are available. Nigerians know what is happening so that at least it will reduce the challenge of corruption at local government level. Last 2 weeks, we are in Gombe, myself and Ola, the chairman of the EFCC. And we discussed around the challenges at local government level. So, and we are determined to ensure that we focus there so that Nigerians at the local level can get the dividend of democracy. And even recently, we have been facing challenges around the issue of this local government autonomy because there is even one caretaker local government chairman whom we charged to court because after the decision of the Supreme Court, he continued to spend government money to award contracts despite the fact that the Supreme Court said, look, stop. And also we know how challenging this issue of local autonomy has been since 1999. But ICPs as an agency, we will ensure that by virtue of Section 287 of the Constitution, we have the power to ensure that the decision of the Supreme Court is implemented fully. And also, I'm appealing to those who are making attempts not to comply with the decision of the Supreme Court to please desist. Because Supreme Court is the last court. Once it delivers a judgment, we must comply. That's what is rule of law. because ICPC will continue to monitor and investigate, because any caretaker local government chairman from 11th of July 2024 who spent public funds, who award contract, that is corruption, because you don't have the mandate. And also the Apex Court has already spoken, so we must comply. Now, in my 1 year in the office, there are a lot of international engagements which ICPC engage in. And in one of the engagements is that last year in September, we had an event in Beijing, China, whereby there is Global Network. Global Network is a coalition of over 200 anti-corruption agencies across the globe from 124 countries. And I have the privilege of leading ICPC delegation and Nigeria, whereby Nigeria participated in an election of steering committee member, and Nigeria was elected as one of the top steering committee member of that Global Network. And also, one area which I made mention that we have been focusing is the issue of asset recovery. Asset recovery is really area whereby we in Africa, we must focus on it, because we have seen how our own resources have been taken outside the continent, going to the global north. So that was why at the African Union level, if you may recall, in 2015, there is Thabo Mbeki high-level committee, whereby the heads of state of African countries agree that there is need for a forum of asset recovery practitioners in Africa. And the processes of bringing up the forum, it was last year that the forum was established in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, and I was elected as one of the representatives of West Africa, whereby we met in Arusha, Tanzania in November, whereby I was elected as the interim chair of that forum to try to galvanize the 55 African countries and corruption agencies to ensure that we come together to see how can we help Africa to recover and repatriate stolen assets that are kept somewhere else. And we agree that, look, apart from slavery, which is our own human resources that was taken to other continents, there are a lot of stolen assets of Africa outside the shore of Africa. And we know what is happening. Whenever you want to trace and recover, the experts outside Africa will charge you huge amount of money to recover all professional fee to recover those stolen assets. So that was why we say, no, we need to come together as Africans. Let us identify our experts within the continent. If we need somebody to trace, Nigeria doesn't have the expert. It can look for Ghana, Kenya, or any other African country. Do you have the expert? Yes. So that's why we are coming together to see that we trace, recover, and repatriate the stolen assets. Also, we'll keep on raising this issue of stolen assets at various fora, because the United Nations Convention Against Corruption has already backed the issue of stolen assets that we need to recover it. So this is an area whereby that I'm chairing now, and we are trying to see how we will make efforts to see that it has seen the light of the day. And distinguished editors, we know that corruption thrives where there is silence, or in silence. But your voices are the ones that can shatter that silence. Your role in shaping public perception and holding institutions accountable cannot be overstated. The more Nigerians see what you write, what your opinion about this issue of corruption, the better for us. Because they will be enlightened, they will know what is happening, they will ask questions, and that will put us on our toes. That will minimize the challenge of corruption. Because we at ICPC, we are trying to see how can we use our mission to diminish corrupt practices through our public mobilization, our own doggedness in investigation, and also to ensure that we follow rule of law. We will be patient in investigation. No matter how long it will take, we will do it slowly but surely. We will reach our destination. And also, we at ICPC will ensure that we deepen our own relationship with you, the media. And I'm appealing to you to come to our try to understand the terrain we are working. It's not easy terrain. Whoever worked within that corruption cycle will know that it is not easy, because it is an area whereby you are fighting those who are already determined to continue to pilfer our resources. It's an area whereby those who engage in corrupt practices are really determined to peddle information that are not correct in order to try to bring controversies so that to divert the attention of the main issue. So fairness, hearing from the other side, is what will help us to discharge our mandate. And ICPC for the past 25 years has consistently maintained ensuring that there is fairness and the fair hearing, and also we do not engage in anything that will bring damage to people because of allegation against them. We will continue to ensure that we will be fair. If you ask questions, we will answer. And like I said, we are appealing to you to reason with us because of the terrain we are operating, which I know I don't need to elaborate. So that is why there is no way we will not come close to you. There is no way, because we need you, because Nigerians need to know what is happening. That will project the good image of our country. That will make foreign direct investment to come into our country. That will make our youth to have job. We know what is happening in this country. We know that a lot of youth are roaming on the streets looking for job. And the youth are the future leader of this country. So, and it is through you, by helping us to propagate our activities and also to bring issues that will project good image of this country. By doing that, we will make Nigeria great, and also will tackle the challenge of our corruption. And conclusively, I want to emphasize that you mean a lot to us, and that we count on you as dependable partners in ensuring that Nigeria is corrupt-free, and also I'm sure that partnering with you will continue to help ICPC to move forward, and also ICPC will continue to record achievements, and we hope that the aspiration of Section 15 of the Constitution will be realized, where Nigeria will be a country free from corrupt practices and abuse of office. Thank you so much. Money and property last year, and I even know even this year too, we recovered some amount of money and also property. Even currently, we are tracing and marking some assets in one of the states where some people diverted public funds. Even this morning, I know that there is an amount of money which we recovered from the diversion of public funds. So we are talking about both the fixed and movable property. That's if you're talking within Nigeria. Even abroad, it is the same thing. Although during my time, ICPC did not recover any assets from taken outside the shores of Nigeria. But I know that we are collaborating with one of the African countries about money that was brought into Nigeria from that country. We are tracking and to trace the money so that we'll see how the money can be taken back to where it was brought in here. So this is what I can say. And some of the issues you raise are part of the problem. Like I said somewhere else, and I kept on saying, I will say it here. My first contact with public office is when I was Attorney General. That was when I now realized that all what I was thinking, when I came into contact with the reality, then I now realize that we Nigerians are part of the problem. One of the issues you raised about societal pressure. I'm not saying that it's a justification for any public officer to engage in corruption. But if you, I'm sure you have had one or two discussions with those who are holding public office. The kind of stress and pressure that public officers are undergoing in this country is too much. Because the family, the friends, associates expect you to give them money. And this is one of the factors that is now pushing those in public office to go into that. And I noticed that any public officer who resists, you are considered as awkward, very difficult, and they will keep on pressurizing you that if only people that are strong that can stand that pressure. And also some people too, they are even daring, will tell you, I was a victim when I was Attorney General. And I want to say it here, maybe the person who did it will hear an issue which I say, look, AG, we want you to do this thing. I say, sir, it's not even in public office, it's not even a public officer. I say, sir, I can't do this thing because my conscience will not allow me to do it. After they put pressure from different angles, okay, you are a young man. How? I don't want to destroy your career. And I say, sir, my career is not in your hand. It's in the hand of God, my Creator. And I left. What followed, it wasn't pleasant. I had to battle for more than 1 year of series of blackmail, from one blackmail to another, just because somebody wants to get money. And you can only get that money through me. And I was put under intense pressure to succumb, which I did not. What followed was I was put under serious stress. Now, the second problem is there is this theory. Whenever the corruption, if you look at it, if the benefit is high, the risk is low, people will keep on to engage. If people know that if you engage in corruption, it is really highly risky, you will lose your reputation in public. People will never consider you as somebody who has reputation in the society. people will be careful. If you know that the punishment is going to be very harsh, people will be careful. But if the risk is very low, the benefit is high, so people will continue to engage. So that is why we need to look how can we strengthen our laws to ensure that those who engage are punished seriously. And also, you, the media, you have the role to play in sensitizing Nigerians that those who are trying, please try to support them. And I want to tell you that there are good people in this country. Every part of this country, there is no part of this country that I did not come across people that detect corruption, people that are serious, people that help me. I met a lot of people that are trying to see how can we help this thing, how can we fight this corruption, Chairman. But the problem is that the support from the public, sometimes people are not willing to support because they feel, you know, what you are doing is not worth it, and also because of the pressure, so people feel like, okay, let us leave you, go and do what. So this is second problem. And also, we need to see how can we fasten the judicial process, because it's law. It is not the law that is the problem, but rather some of us within the system, we try to put stumbling block in the judicial processes, bring in series of applications, truncate, so that you will see one case will take many years. Even the witness will be frustrated. You call a witness today, the matter is adjourned, and I'm not saying that it is the fault of the judges. No, it is all of us, the lawyers, and also other stakeholders, that we know if your client has an issue, as a lawyer, you know, because once you look at the facts and the proof of evidence, you'll be able to know that my client has an issue. Okay, how can we help him to face justice so that all the process of justice, the court and the system should be fair to him? But you will see that that slowing down is also another factor. That you will see somebody engage in corruption, when you take him to court, it will take many years. And before you know it, you will see another corruption case. And also another problem, especially in the public sector, I now notice, is that our public service rules also has a problem, because it has given a leeway that people engaging in corruption, there is no specific provision which provides that, look, once you are engaged in corruption, you should automatically be dismissed. But some, you will find that after ICPC are investigating an issue, it has taken somebody to court, even if you secure conviction, you will not realize that the agencies are not willing to edge out those people. They will leave them to continue working. Because I feel any public officer that is convicted, he is not supposed to continue working in public agency. He should go. If the Constitution will say that conviction of embezzlement and fraud attracts disqualification for a certain period of time, I think there is need. Any convict should not be allowed to work within the public service. It should just be aged out. And that is why now, as chairman of ICPC, we are now going to exploit the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal. Any public officer with secure conviction and the agency refuses to edge him out, we will send him to code of conduct because they have the power to edge him out. So there is another way so that we don't allow people to continue. So these and other issues are part of the problem why the problem of corruption will keep on coming and coming and coming. And also the institutions are really weak because there are a lot of vulnerabilities where people are exploiting in order to commit corrupt practices. That is why we need to focus on technology. Technology will be able to give you the thread. You will be able to know some of the things that are happening, most especially around procurement. This is an area whereby there is serious problem because of the laxity and the challenge around that. So that's why you will see that almost you will be seeing issues around procurement be raised in public sector. So this is also another factor that is bringing this issue of corruption to keep on going. And also there is international dimension too. Because if those who are taking or stealing the humongous amount of money, they don't have a place to hide it, then it will reduce. But they know that they can wear it somewhere else. And those countries, I keep on saying, when you say that we have challenge of corruption, why are you keeping the process of crime in your country? Why can't you turn them back? This is process of crime. Please take it back to your country because there is United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And it is a global legal instrument. But you will find out that when they wear the money outside the country, there are a lot of technicalities. MLA, other things that will be frustrated because the legal mechanisms are made in such a way that it's even very, very difficult for you to recover. So if they know that they cannot take it somewhere else, I think the problem might reduce. Okay, the constituency project, like I said, we have been investigating the issue because it's a challenge that has been with us for a long period of time. And from what I notice of why the challenge keep on coming is one of the issues you made mention. Because there was a time when member of National Assembly, he told me, say, Chairman, I have concern. I say, what is your concern? He said, it's about this concern executive project Tri-Kill. You people are doing well. But I know why this issue will keep on coming. On that day, he was telling me the challenge he was facing. There was burial in his hometown. You need to contribute. He said, look, somebody had domestic accident. He called me. And so he kept on mentioning, he said, I'm not justifying, but the societal pressure on us is too much. That's why only those who are strong will resist. And I don't know whether that is part of the reason why we are having this challenge. And to be frank with you, we have noticed areas whereby some of them did not execute the project. We have noticed whereby some of them, they did shoddy job. We have noticed whereby some of you noticed that, like I keep on saying, a well is supposed to be dig in one place and somebody will just take it to his home farmland. We will see where there is street lights instead of to be installed in the streets, somebody will put in his house. So these are challenges that coming. And I know that there is one of the newspapers last year, they made a front page story that ICPC has failed to tackle this challenge. And I know that we have been doing our best. And we did a lot because we have recovered a lot. And even currently, I know that there is somebody who is facing trial. A charge will file a charge against one of the former members of National Assembly. A former member is facing trial because of diversion. And also, we know that we have been going to ensure that if you do not execute the contract, you must go and do it. I know that there is a state whereby an ambulance was diverted. We ensure that it was taken to the hospital. I know where a lot of things, and that's why the strategy is good, in the sense that let us recover the proceeds of crime and put it into use. Because if you keep on filing charges and all these things, you will spend many years in court while the actual project will not be executed. And to be fair to them, if you confront them, you show them the proof. Honorable or distinguished, this is a project you're supposed to execute, you do not. Please direct the contractor to go back to site, or contractor go back to site. They go back. And recently, those who are being used, the contractors, I have been hard on them. If you allow money to be diverted through you, you are going to charge you now. You want to refund that money because you allow yourself to be used as conduit pipe. So we have been doing that and we have recovered a lot. And if I may say that the societal pressure, in my view, is one of the challenges, and also the weakness of the institutions. Because, to be frank, some of the heads of agencies, they allow themselves to be used in these challenges of constituency projects. Because if the head of agencies insists, once there is a contract awarded, that contract must be executed to the latter. Or insist that you are not going to allow anything to be inserted in your budget, which is not out of your mandate. So if we will do that, then this thing will be minimized. But if the head of agencies allow themselves to be used, then this thing will keep on happening. And ICPC, all the corruption agencies, we don't have the capacity to follow all projects. That's why you, as the media, you can expose. The public too, they need to follow their project, all your projects. If there's a project which is supposed to be done in your constituency or in your sector district that was not done, raise it. And I don't think there is any public officer that you confront him with evidence that this amount of money was appropriated for a particular project and you don't execute, please go back and execute. You will not say, no, I'm not going to do that. I hope I have answered. We are doing it in such a way that we don't disrupt the financial system. So we do it in such a way that we don't allow you to continue with illegality and committing crime, so that we will save the banking system and also the public sector fund. Then on issue of Dubai, like you made mention, in my speech I made mention of proceeds of crime. And I alluded to the fact that the international legal regimes, the various laws of countries are the problem. Because for me, I kept on saying in various fora on corruption that look, if somebody steals our money and take it to your own country and you keep it, why are you telling me that we should come together and fight corruption? Why? Because you know, because your own, there is no your money in my country. So that's why you are saying we should join hands. Why I have traced and point out to you, this is the public funds taken to your own country. Why can't you give us our own? But because of the legal regimes, sometimes it's tedious, it takes a lot of time, and there are a lot of. It's not even law alone. There are politics, there are diplomacy. So it is something which is even outside the realm of anti-corruption agencies alone, because you need a lot of stakeholders. I know recently there are countries that I am the one who have been following that, look, let us sign an MOU with you, because we have noticed our funds are being taken to your own countries. And they agree. There are some 1 or 2 countries that I know that we are about to complete signing an MOU because of what we have noticed.
Also here, as a media owner, I here with my team, we have a radio station and also a television station. I want to commend your efforts. For you to meet with the media shows you are transparent. It shows you are accountable. I don't have any question to ask you because I'm part of the team. It is not cheap to fight corruption. It's very, very expensive. Fighting corruption is also very, very complex. It's not as easy as we used to say it. It is only the person that is wearing the shoe that will know where it pinches. So I commend your efforts and I pray for more grace that God should color your efforts. Everything is in your favor, the age, the energy, you have the capacity, and you have the right team to help you to drive it. Thank you. You have the right team to drive it. Finally, you have this advice. You can't do it alone. You need to also rely on the outside team to help you to drive your dreams, your plans, and goals, especially in the area of the media. I suggest maybe you have something like a strategic media public enlightenment committee. Comprises, of course, the media team as well, stakeholders. You have a committee who also help you spread your good news. Also help you spread your good news either in the public sector, in the private sectors, and all that. Because if you say you want to work with media like you would like to work to, it's very, very expensive. But when you have the committees, selected committee, media team, editors, and also for the private sector and public sector, they will help you to achieve your dreams and goals. So you have our support, and like I said, God will color your efforts. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Angry ones and the pastors. Let me just add to your to-do list. I had 2 questions written down, but after Ikechukwu gave his lecture, I decided to calm down. You talked about, before I round up, and thank you for coming, judges advising you to go settle out of court. The biggest problem, one of the biggest problems with corruption in Nigeria are those judges. Recently, I think it was the Chief Justice of Nigeria who said election cases constitute about 70 or 80% of the cases they have in their docket, which suggests that election cases are very lucrative for them. So you have to put your searchlight on the judiciary. Then number 2, your constituency, the legal profession. Please, MBA has, from all accounts, a vibrant lawyer, Afam Osigwe. Engage, collaborate with him. MBA too has to deliver. Plea bargaining takes place and judges advise you to go settle out of court is because the judges too are corrupt. The appointment and promotion mechanism on the bench is also corrupt. Search the NJC. Today, the type of, what's the word now? Corruption in terms of judicial promotion in Abuja is huge and impacts on the quality of judgment delivered. So, Mr. Chairman, The biggest thing you have done is to come here to show transparency. You said corruption thrives when there's. I also say this, I'll add to that corruption thrives when there's darkness, when it's hidden. So you're coming out here suggests that you really want to fight corruption in partnership with my colleagues. And it's a brilliant thing you have done. I know you met some of my colleagues in Abuja, and that's why the Secretary of the Guild and the Deputy President of the Guild are here. You have to continue. Because if you want to work with the media, honestly, the way you have shown, the media will work with you, and Nigeria will be better for it. Thank you for coming. God bless you.
And I will do my best to discharge my duty to the best of my ability, together with the officers of the ICPC. That is why, if people are raising the issue of bias, the issue of all this, you cannot prevent people from raising those kind of issues. But one thing I know, that if I satisfy my conscience, I will go to sleep. And like I said, there is somewhere else that we are going to account somewhere. And that is why I try as much as possible to be fair in what I'm doing. And also God knows what I'm doing, and also know my ability, because the anti-corruption is a very complex and difficult thing. Sometimes getting evidence, getting things is difficult. Even if you're investigating issues, somebody will look like you are targeting you are targeting somebody, or you have a motive, or this thing. So on my own part, I will do my best, and also posterity will judge. Because that's the only thing I can say. On other issue, which like the president said, that the lecture you gave us, and some of the things you raised, I quite agree with you that those are the challenges, and we need to work on them. And in my view, that is why the Constitution is structured in such a way that the Chapter 2, it is left in such a way that it's you, the leader, that should strive to ensure that Chapter 2 is realizable. You attain that aspiration: education, healthcare, good environment, all other social amenities. You as a leader, you must think out of the box to ensure that you reduce the poverty level, which I agree with you. The level of poverty is really high, and we need to tackle it, because without tackling the poverty, we will continue to face this challenge of corruption that keeps on coming. And also, we are not justifying or depending the public office holders or the politicians, like you said, that we are saying that there is societal pressure. Like you said, it's a fact. We can't deny it. Myself as ICPC chairman, if I show you the number of text messages people are sending to me every day, you'll be shocked. In fact, I am even thinking that some they have even forgotten that I am the ICPC chairman. Maybe they are thinking that I am chairman of one local government or a state government, because they will keep on sending. So, and also they will keep on calling, because the number of calls are such that they are unbearable. And we are part of the society. Even if we deny, there is such a thing that even if you deny, is a reality. And I agree that poverty is one of the factors. But also we have to keep on telling people that they need to consider public holders. And also we, the public office holders, also, we need to live a simple life. Because some of us, the way we are living a very larger life, that's why people will keep on pressurizing you. But unfortunately, it is also us the Nigerians that are pushing people. Like that member I started the example, he told me that my constituents were telling me that look at this man. He has finished house already, he has an old car. Up to now. So people are even look at you, there are certain things that even if you exhibit as a public officer, people will look at you that is strange. So why? Because it is the society that are pushing people to adopt a life that will put you in trouble. And once you resist, like I said, they will say you are awkward, you are difficult, you know, all these things. And we are all human beings. And that is why we need that support from you, the media, in your own writings, articles, and opinions, and also the public too. They need to support public officers that are transparent, that try to live within their means and within the ambit of the law. But without that, you will find one or two people that because of that, they will derail. Because of that prejudice. That's why always I will raise this issue of prejudice. Last week when I was in Gombe, and I told the chairman, don't allow anybody to put pressure on you to dip your hand in public purse. Let them say whatever they want to say. Because one day you are going to leave. It's better for you to leave, you go home and sleep well, than for you to leave and something to follow up which will not be nice.
Congratulations on the new channel, and I'm happy to be here. The Omniverse is imagined as a collaboration platform. So it's a platform that, as the name suggests, is bringing together ecosystems. So it's like an ecosystem of ecosystems, aggregating aggregators and community leaders who are able to bring together their communities together to a platform. So the summit in itself was, while it was a big event and a heavy lift for us and the team, and I have to thank our team of volunteers. We had a team of about 40 full-time core volunteers that delivered the Omniverse. So one of the key things about the Omniverse is that it's designed to go beyond an event and designed to be fully something that people can engage beyond the summit. So we will be launching our digital platform. We have about 70 community partners already, including a number of government institutions. So to answer the question, there's public-private partnership within the Omniverse. There's regulators, there's government departments and agencies, there's ministries. But more importantly, there's diverse sectors across the economy coming together with the understanding that tech is the biggest enabler for development across all sectors, and that if we can drive collaboration, we can scale. So that's the ethos of the Omniverse. Collaboration is the superpower that we're trying to bring to the fore. That operating in silos has not paid us, but if we come together, understand that technology affects every sector, then we think the Omniverse is here to stay. Nigerian companies, Nigerian associations, global associations. And when I say associations, it's from things like, the Nigerian digital artists who have 3,000 members, right, in the NFT community, the Visual Artists of Nigeria, the Society of Nigerian Art, the AfriLabs, which is the biggest innovation hub network on the continent in 54 African countries, ISN Hubs, which is our core partner, which is the biggest innovation network in Nigeria, innovation support network, with something like 189 hubs in 30 states in Nigeria. And these are primarily private sector driven platforms, from aggregators who are major promoters of major platforms such as Lola Shone from Ake Book Festival, Choma Ode from AFRIF. We have a lot of these people who are either on our advisory board, they are co-chairs, or they are community partners, because what we're building is beyond any one person. It's about collaboration both at the top level, but through the line down to the bottom. The role of my council is, first of all, to be the primary sort of mandate is to infuse Nigerian arts and culture into everything the Nigerian government does at state level, at federal level, and to input it into schools, education, and everywhere. So in that sense, to make arts and culture functional and front line everywhere. This will involve the foreign minister, making sure it's embedded in our foreign policy, in our embassies, in the government policy, in every sector. So we're literally going to be reaching out to collaborate to all government at all levels, all other agencies, MDAs, ministries, federal government and state government institutions, to see how we can find common ground. Because obviously we don't necessarily have a lot of money, but I feel we represent the real crude oil of Nigeria, which is the IP that the Nigerian people create. That IP they create, even if you valued it at $100 per Nigerian, that'd be something like $20 billion. And I believe each Nigerian is worth more than $100. So my own estimation, it's limitless, right? So what we have to do is we have to rethink how we imagine ourselves, rethink our own possibilities, and therefore from there, take off by pushing that agenda. But it's not an agenda for me alone. It's actually an agenda for all of Nigeria. Because when we put it front and center, it means we're putting the Nigerians front and center. And we put the Nigerians front and center, I think we win. I think historically you will find that the federal government and the governments of Nigeria have not funded heavily these sectors. They funded the heavy industries, the military-industrial complex, heavy infrastructure. But the funny thing is, whilst Africans will say, oh, this is grammar, what are you people talking about in arts and culture? What you find is that the West, right, for 500 years has dominated the world. How have they dominated the world? Through narrative. Okay, but what do we complain about? Narrative. But we haven't invested in narrative. So if you don't invest in telling your own story and owning your own story, why are you complaining about how you're perceived? So I think it's counterintuitive, and it's about time. And I'm very pleased and very happy that Nigeria now has a full ministry focused on this one specific issue. Because the truth of the matter is, we are older than time itself. We come before Christ. We come before the entire Western hegemony. We are actually the origins of everything, of innovation, of technology, of science, of education. But if we don't believe it ourselves and we don't express it, how can you expect anybody else to believe it? Well, I think the difference is that as a creative entrepreneur, there's really nothing to stop me, right? I can take all the risks. I don't have to worry about anything. I can decide, win or lose, we're doing this thing. But of course, as a public official, I have rules and regulations I have to go by. I have a boss, I report to people, and I have KPIs I have to deliver on. So there's a big difference in that regard. There's a difference in bureaucracy, maybe a difference in response time, but there certainly will not be a difference in my personality. So I think it's really about how you perceive what these things are. For me, it's an elevation, obviously, and it's a privilege and a pleasure to serve at this level, to do something that I believe in, to do something which is that I believe in Nigeria. I believe in Nigerians. I know our ability. I think we are world class. I don't like all this, it's good for Nigeria. I hate that. So I think for me, that is what's important. And to have the opportunity to try to deliver on some of the things we've been trying to do from the private sector for the last 25, 30 years. So there's nothing new for me in that regard. But of course, the position is new. Being in the government is new. But with a lot of support from friends, family, professional colleagues, and other people in the industry, plus my co-DGs and the minister, hopefully we'll do well. We're under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy. And that's very, very powerful because it means Nigeria itself has taken a decision to own the agenda. Hopefully I have a good time, have a good tenure, and I don't make any enemies. And well, for me, if you leave a place and the people that worked with you have good things to say, if they feel better about their work and about themselves, and if the brand that you're now leading is now appreciated by the people for what it does and how it brings it to the table, then I've done my job. I think Afrobeats has already established the fact that we are originally Nigerian. Or some people say arrogantly Nigerian. And it was intentional. We built this thing, and it was intentional because we're not going to ever apologize for being Nigerian. We're not going to apologize for being black. We're not going to apologize for being African. And that's front of mind. Because, you know, when you do show business, you have to validate it. So we validated the show maybe at least 10 years ago. So now we're in the business phase. So when you see the exit of Maven Records with UMG, you see Iwaju coming, Comic Republic with Universal Studios, you begin to understand where we're building to. And when you think about where we're coming from, where there was no infrastructure, no funding, no support, and I think part of what we hope to do with government at this time is, because we come from the sector, we can collaborate with everybody in the sector. We don't have to talk at them, we talk with them, we build with them. And together, I think it's limitless. You know, Nigerians like to say the sky is your limit. I think it's limitless. There's no limit to the whole situation. One of the things I talk about all the time is what's the difference between Thor and Shango? Thor is approaching $50 billion in revenue. Shango's broke somewhere outside Lagos. And that's a lack of imagination on our part. That's a lack of us delving into the richest thing we have, which is our mythology. Our mythology is endless. If you look at the Marvel universe and the DC Comics universe, the Orisha are basically the same thing as the X-Men. But the Orisha, some people are still afraid of them, whereas the X-Men are north of $100 billion in revenue. So I think we have to understand and reimagine our mythology, our history, our stories, and how to bring them to the world in new formats. It's not just film. It could be live action. It could be gaming. There's so many different ways to action these things. And when you do them, and you do them right at the right level, as Iwaju is beginning to show you, our stories have always been world-class. Our characters are world-class. What we have not had is the resolve and the confidence to finish. I think that is coming now. For me, I think it's still the fact there's more to do. My young brother, Misan Harriman, is nominated at the Oscars, the first Nigerian nominated for a director for a short film, because I know what that will do for the next generation of Nigerian directors, right? So for me, there's still more to do. There's so much more to do. When we see our first $100 million movie in the global box office, we need to celebrate it. When you win a Grammy, you need to celebrate it, because these are stages that we were locked out of. The technology and new media has allowed us to invade these spaces we were not even invited to. But now we're beginning to enter them and dominate. So even when you do that, you have to do it with grace and dignity, not with arrogance. And that's something that some of us have to learn. But the truth of the matter is, the greatness of the Nigerians is just beginning to come. And I feel strongly that this century, we're already in the African century, and the soft power that we hold here is what will define the future of the century. I think the most important thing, the first thing to think about is IP protection, because the minister is working strongly, intellectual property. The US, if you take the state of California is probably in the top 5 economies in the world, and 70% of the economy of California is driven by intellectual property, by 2 core industries: Silicon Valley, which is coming out of Stanford University, and Hollywood, which of course is the music and film industry. Now, that is for anybody that says, oh, what is this thing that they're talking about? We don't understand it, it's grammar. The grammar is the money, okay? The narrative is the money, the story is the money. So any of your children or your nieces or nephews that have talent, visual art, performing art, arts and crafts, adire, all of these things that we've been taking as vocation, they are occupations. They are extremely valuable. And with digital technology and platforms, we can scale these things and generate incredible revenue. The point being that Nigeria has so much to bring to the world in terms of these things. I think Nigerian cuisine is going to be on the level of Chinese and Indian cuisine worldwide in the next 10 years. And if you understand that, then you understand that the Indian restaurants in the UK, as far back as 2009, were generating more money than the UK automobile, shipping, and metal, steel industries combined. That's just restaurants on the high streets. So that is why we must invest and we must put our energy into this sector, because this sector will provide the jobs, provide the revenues, and provide the global dollars that everybody's looking for. Oh, I think it hasn't even started. The Maven Records deal is giving you an indication of that. The reason why that valuation of $150 to $200 million has been done is because of the upside potential of Rema, who's 23, and Arya Starr, who's 20. So they're looking at the fact that in 10 years' time, these guys could have generated $1 billion each. Do you understand? So it's a safe bet when you already have a built global talent at 23, when it normally takes years and years and a lot of money to build the talent, right? So what has happened is that we Nigerians have been able to build global talents, global following, with a percentage of the money it takes people in other places to do the same thing. So because of that, the value and the valuation is much bigger, right? So I would say the Afrobeats wave, it's not even a wave. It's been going for 15 years already. So when you encounter it is when you encounter it. If you think it's an overnight success in 2024, that means you were not around in 2008. 2006, I'd say it's a good time to think when the sort of continental, because we took Africa first, working very closely and collaboratively with South Africans, Ghanaians, and Kenyans. Then we started going into Asia and the UK and America on the black, what I call the Nigerian chitlin circuits, moving through the Nigerian communities. And then by about 2010, begin to come into the mainstream with Oliver Twist and all these kind of records that break globally. And now you have gold records from Oliver Twist in 14 countries. And now, in a situation now where an artist like Ashake can come out of Lagos, speaking a language that is not known to most of these people, and generating, selling out arenas. To become an arena artist, let me tell you, there are only 4 or 5 arena artists from Africa, and they're all Nigerian. Don't take it for granted. I think a lot of people feel that, but what I should tell the rest of the country is that the rest of the continent is also trying to get to Lagos as well, right? It's not just the rest of Nigeria. From Accra, from Luanda, from everywhere on this continent, they're trying to get into Lagos, because if they can break in Lagos, they can break anywhere else in the world. But what I would say is this, from the perspective of my agency, our purview is national and global. We have 10 regional offices. We'll be visiting all of them. And our duty is to spotlight and showcase everybody. So we can't deal with just Lagos. And I think as we go forward, people begin to see the activations and plans coming. But the easiest way to do it, and the way we're going to do our best to do it, is to provide digital platforms to give everybody the opportunity to be seen. Because in this world, we live in the attention economy. So to be seen and to be noticed is very hard if you're not in the place where all the noise is being made. But I know for a fact there's significant talent in all parts of Nigeria. I was watching last week, a gentleman called Ehi Benite was showing me all this content from Jos with these guys rapping serious stuff. They're rapping in Hausa, they were doing ciphers. And then he was like, what do we do about these guys? I said, just keep pushing them, because there's an audience for everything. There's an audience for everything. Don't be worried about that. There's an audience for every single thing, including the thing that you may be doing in your bedroom, but you think is not important. Somebody's interested in it. My label was a hip-hop label. I even refused to sign singers. There's almost every singer you could name was trying to get us to sign them. And I used to do it based on, can you rap? If you can't drop a freestyle, don't bother, right? It was that simple. And we helped all the other singers get signed to labels that we thought could help them and develop them in that direction. Hip-hop has changed, and obviously it's generational, right? So hip-hop has changed, and everybody approaches music from their own generation. Like, oh, I like this kind of hip-hop or that kind of hip-hop. What I feel is that Afrobeats became overwhelming, and it overwhelmed every other genre here. So the hip-hop guys had to fight for relevance, but the best ones always rise to the top. That's just the simple truth. So I don't worry about that. And I've heard enough guys. I even saw there was a whole Instagram series some guy was doing about a year ago where he was just bringing out fresh rappers every day from Enugu, from Jos, from Kaduna, from Kano, from Benin. I love it. I think there are incredible MCs in Nigeria. A lot of times they need to focus on doing better songs, right? Not just being a freestyle rapper. If you want to get paid to rap, you got to do better songs. You can't just do the freestyles. And that's something they got to think about. You got to balance the commercial side of it with the business side of it. And what has happened is, to a large extent, the commercial side has won because you got to pay bills. But hip hop, it never dies. I think, first of all, obviously from the perspective of I'm sitting in government, so I'm not in a position to tell government what to do or what not to do. But what I can say is this, is that the agency, my agency will be the home for the music industry, for performing arts, visual arts, fashion, gaming, recreation, festivals, culinary arts, film and television. We're kind of a convening agency for the ministry. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of places to touch, but we're also going to collaborate with all the other MDAs in the ministry and heavily with the private sector and the developmental sector. Because to answer the question, I've worked in all these spaces for, it's not quite 40 years, but it's a long time. I've worked in all these spaces for a long time. In the institution, we have positive relationships to bring to the table to change the approach and to change the destination of where we hope to go. What I will say as well is that the reality of it is we're just beginning the journey. And there are no magic wands. I'm not going to wave a wand and everything's going to be fixed overnight, and neither is anybody else. But we will be bringing fresh energy, fresh ideas, a fresh engagement, and we're obviously open to collaboration. And that's really important for me to say that, because people feel there are gatekeepers, but in my agency, there are no gatekeepers, right? We're not interested in whether you have the biggest reputation or the smallest reputation. We're interested in the value you're bringing to the table. Because the truth of the matter is Nigeria is massive. There's a lot of stuff going on in Nigeria. We're going to try to aggregate those things and bring them into one platform so that even as Nigerians, we can know what we're doing. Because to be honest, if you don't know and you don't follow, there's no way you can know 90% of what is happening even in Lagos before you talk about the rest of the 36 states in the FCT. So for me, from my perspective, the journey continues. The objective remains the same. We want to see Nigeria win. But in order to do it this time, I don't think government should ever be disinterested in the nature of the industries in which it is operating. But we also don't need to be owning the space. We want to enable, partner, collaborate, and see how we can push people to do more. Because there are already people doing a lot, and maybe they haven't been recognized, they haven't been brought out, they haven't been celebrated. All these kind of things we can help to do, help to get news stories and people to bring these things to the fore, right? Like I said today, a Nigerian who was nominated for an Oscar as a director, the first Nigerian, is up tonight at the Oscars. It's not news in Nigeria. That's a problem. We have to be able to tell the stories that are of greatness of our people, because if you don't do that, you can't inspire anybody.
Henry Itauma. I'm from Akwa Ibom State, Eke local government precisely. My primary school at Akwa Ibom Church Primary School, so young Eket, where I grew up in the early 70s. I moved into government secondary school at Eket. I finished my school set in 1981. It was a jolly good experience. Before I moved over to Lagos, where I did my higher school, Federal School of Art and Science, Victoria Island, and from where I took my JAM, then I got admission to study English and literary studies in the great University of Calabar. Growing up was fun, education was fun. We enjoyed the bits of life all we went through there, from primary to secondary school, the dormitory lives, my friends, my colleagues. Coming over to Lagos was quite an experience. My first time in Lagos, arriving after a tortuous journey back then. Went over to VI, studied along with some blue chip children, Federal School of Art and Science then, as it was called, just where you have the law school now. It was quite an experience. And back to University of Calabar, we had quite a drill, the studies of English language and literature. I happen to have specialized in literature, where we did a thorough work on all the spheres of literature, the landscape of literature. We almost exhausted it with key professors and lecturers. Talking about Afro-American literature, Caribbean literature, South African literature, Russian literature, literature of social protest. Then we come back to African literature, where we explored the whole landscape. African literature, African drama, African prose, and storytelling, folk tales, and trickster stories. It was a huge experience that changed my life. And coming over here, finished our youth service, did my youth service in Imo State then. We had respect as corporate. We were well treated. And came over back to Lagos, looking for work in Lagos, 1988, 89. We started a magazine in Lagos here. We call it the Hits magazine. It was tailored after the Right On magazine. It was a music magazine. We started that stuff in Lagos here, and then we couldn't sustain it because of the finances. Luckily for me, I was able to run, got a job with the bank, and then I started a marketing aspect for the bank. From the bank, merchant bank, when the bank went under, I decided to go solo. That brought me to the book industry. I have always have this passion for books, right from my primary school to my secondary school. My mom was a teacher, a successful teacher. We were encouraged to read books. We used to hide ourselves in the libraries, my local government libraries. So when I got admitted to the University of Calabar, all our long vacations, we were always found in the library. Of course, there was no GSM then. The library was our contact space, where we go to the libraries to get information about when the school is going to resume, because apart from news, radio, and all that, you may not know when the school is going to resume. But when you meet with your friends, you know, in the library there, we meet with some other undergraduates, Uniben, Souq, Ife, some of our friends who were studying there, who came home for long vacations. I mean, we interact with them, and before you know it, we hear, you people are going to resume this, that, and that's how my passion for books get strengthened. When we resume schools, we exchange novels. We look for novels to read. We look for African writers series. We look for Headley Chase. We look for exotic books. We started collecting books. When we finished reading, we shared the books to our friends. We talked about the books, and from there, we were able to explore the world. We sat down in the library and we knew what was happening in the apartheid South Africa. I did so much about the history of South Africa. I read about the Zulu aftermath. I read about the Mau Mau Wars, the challenge of colonialism, the pro-colonial times. I had a good teacher who taught me history in the secondary school, Miss Tooten. He did a yeoman's job. He led us through the whole spectrum of West African history. West African history by Adekunle Aromolaran. We talked about the Oyo Empire, Songhai Empire, Timbuktu, the Great Mali Empire. You know, all these things stir up our curiosities. And since then, we never departed from books. in close association with the Institute of Public Analysts of Nigeria, IPAN. These are people that do analysis for products, water analysis, analysis of waste and effluent, radioactive activity, food and drug analysis. We have worked with quality control experts across the industries. We have worked with establishments where they do root crop research. We have worked with the pharmaceutical research industries, medical research bodies, malaria research establishments, cancer research establishment. These people look for us for specialized information in the management of special disease and treatment in oncology, people in the area of traditional medicine, alternative medicine, natural medicine. They look for it. We are partnering with the Nigerian Institute of Science and Technology, Institute of Natural Medicine in Victoria Island, to work with them in the area of the development of herbal medicines in Nigeria. We have books we partner with them to promote. You see, medicinal plants from eastern Nigeria, medicinal plants from the northeast, medicinal plants from the southwest, medicinal plants from the south-south. We market these books for people who want to know. No, we are working now on the production in partnership with relevant institute of the Nigerian pharmacopoeia. We know about the British pharmacopoeia. We know about the American pharmacopoeia, the Japanese pharmacopoeia, and herbology. We are working towards having the Nigerian pharmacopoeia. This is going to be a compendium of materials that talks about medicinal plants of value, medicinal plants that have healing properties. We are working with specialists, pharmacognosy, phytochemists, and by God's grace, this is going to come into fruition. We partner with the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria and all kinds of health bodies that we can't even mention. So many of them invite us for their annual conferences, which is rotated across different states in different years across the nation. So we've traveled, and in most of these conferences, you have experts, deans of faculties, heads of departments that reach out to us with informations in books and journals that are relevant for their students and for their practitioners. We don't only market reference books and textbooks in all fields of study, all fields of human endeavor. We also market relevant journals, research journals, peer-reviewed journals in sociology, in psychology, in law, research journals in oncology, in public health, community medicine, in nursing, research journals in nutrition and dietetics, food science, international relations. We partner with the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Victoria Island. We have key journals in world affairs, African affairs, and these journals will help them to distribute to all relevant establishments and departments that need it. So it has been a great job, very taxing and exciting. Each book added a new spectrum of learning and knowledge for us. When we got into literature and poetry, we explore a whole lot. When we went into American history, the black history, we read about the nation of Islam. We read about Elijah Muhammad. We knew the struggle they had to go through, racism and all that stuff. And it really inspired us to see what we can do to add value to knowledge. And it has brought us this far. So it's been passion, not really born out of the money and whatever. Of course, when you have value to present, you'll be appreciated. in many ways. We have had sundry appreciations from establishments, from institutes across West Africa and beyond. You know, we partner with international publishers all over the world to source cutting-edge materials for our clients. We take pains to go through a lot of materials that come in here. Whether there are new materials or whether there are new, we believe that when you are doing research, it is what is called cross-cultural research. You start from the past and then come to the present. Research in any field, what happened before, where we were before, and where we are now, and then we look forward. So we have a lot of materials for our clients, and we are on an endless journey of search. When we started this business, we came face to face with HIV. We go after books on HIV and AIDS. We got them across our clients and our readers. As we went further, Ebola came, and we sourced for materials for medical virologists. It's a virus. Clinical virology, we gave the books to them, and they were very happy. We got the materials. We did what is called public health awareness to get people assured that these things are preventable. That is not the end of life. You see, when you have the information, you have the confidence to practice, you are not scared of whatever. Whatever is coming in probably had happened before. All we need is for new information to combat the emerging diseases. There are journals that deal with emerging infectious diseases. We provide these materials for practitioners, and it has served the purpose over the years. The secret of my success has been the impartation of specialist knowledge, tertiary knowledge for professionals. You know, education and learning is a lifelong journey. People talk about continuous professional development. For instance, in the media world and the real estate world, we have partnered with people who are doing media studies, you know, the print media, the electronic media, mass communication as a whole. We have provided a lot of materials for them. So now we have specialists in the media, we have special editors, screenwriters, short story writers, photojournalists, you know, and we provide them these materials. In the real estate world, we have attended conferences of real estate practitioners, providing cutting-edge materials for them in real estate developments, information technology, property development, property law. All these materials assist them in the practice of real estate. We have gone far more. We work with people, the QS, quantity surveyors, town planners, environmental managers, people who do environmental audits, environmental impact assessment, you know, space planning. We work with them, you know. And these materials we get from all across the world. If you are practicing in this area and you need materials to improve your services and the value you are creating, you will need us. We have a whole list of experts in different fields that reach us when they have challenges, when they have need for special information to solve specific problems, they reach out to us. They call, yeah, a bookman, all range. We need books in this area. For instance, we had a former minister